Okay, you ready? I would like to call to order the Zoning Board of Adjustment regular meeting for June 18th, 7:35. Call to order and statement of compliance. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the public meeting hearing dates on the municipal bulletin board and website, by sending copy to the Echo Sentinel and Courier News newspapers, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. Standard board procedures. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Meeting cutoff. Announcement is made that as a matter of procedure, it is the intention of the Zoning Board of Adjustment not to continue any matter past 10:30 p.m. at any regular or special meeting of the board, unless a motion is passed by the members then present to extend the meeting to a later specified cutoff time. Electronic devices. All in attendance are asked to mute cell phones or any electronic devices as to not interrupt the proceedings. Pledge of Allegiance. Jessica, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Yes. Mr. Aronio?
Here.
Ms. Brennan?
Here.
Mr. Giannakis is excused/recused tonight. Mr. Flatley?
Here.
Mr. Rosenberg is excused this evening. Mr. Watts?
Here.
Ms. Collins?
Here.
Vice Chairman Grosskopf?
Here.
And Chairman Correct is also recused and excused for this matter. We have a quorum.
Okay. Meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read the meeting minutes? Actually, I'm looking at the resolutions. Do we have meeting minutes for this
We
meeting?
do have
Yeah.
meeting minutes.
May 21st, 2024.
I don't know when
May 21st, or what is it, May 21st?
I don't have mine here, but
I have May 7 minutes in front of me, and April 16 and May 7 continued.
Those have all been approved.
okay.
They're on my,
The email that I sent out for the invite had meeting minutes on it.
yeah, these are on
Thank you.
the desk here. They were left here, I didn't bring them with me. Memorialization, June 4 on both.
You're looking at resolutions, not
Oh,
minutes.
sorry, thank you.
We have the minutes. We
That's
have
what I
them
said,
here.
yes.
I don't have the
Okay.
minutes in front of me.
Yes, I saw these at home. Does anybody have any comments or corrections? Seeing none, can I get somebody to give me a motion to approve the minutes? Right? Someone?
So,
A
the
motion to
eligible,
approve?
eligible
I'll move
individuals.
to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Mr. Watts, in second?
in second?
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, next are resolutions.
And Mr. Acting Chair, I'd just like to let you know that 5 resolutions are listed this evening on the agenda, but we will only be memorializing 2,
Yes.
that being Conforti, application number 2401Z, and GSD Estates LLC, application number 2404Z. The others were not ready for this evening to be memorialized.
Okay. Has anybody had a chance to read these? Yes?
Yes.
I have. Okay. Any corrections or comments?
My only correction would be that because these were prepared for originally
Mhm.
the June 4th meeting,
Yes.
at the top, under the memorialization statement up there, we just have to revise that to today's date. But other than that, I have no comments because I wrote these things, so I would have otherwise.
I better read it a little more clearly then. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Well, let's start with Conforti.
Oh, we can't do them together?
No, we have to
Okay.
do them separately.
that's-
So for
that's
Conforti,
Conforti and Yamas?
No, the eligible members are Vice Chairman Grosskopf, Mr. Aronio, Ms. Brennan, and Mr. Watts.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All in,
No, I have to do roll call.
roll call?
Yep. Ms. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Aronio,
Yes.
Mr. Watts,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Grosskopf.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now for the GSD Estates,
I'll move it.
application number 2404Z.
Same people.
And same comment, just got to change the memorialization date on the first page.
Okay. Jerry's moved it. Can I get a second? We have a second? Roll
Mr.
call?
Aronio,
Yes.
Ms. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Watts,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Grosskopf.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. And tonight we'll be looking at application, site plan and use variance carried from 4.2, 4.16, 5.7, 6.4. We're here tonight. Block 12302, Lot 11, Zone M, 1893 Long Hill Road, application number 24-06Z, Dronron LLC. Applicant proposes to add an addition on the existing building and a new 32 by 40 foot pole barn behind the existing building.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'll call you Mr. Chairman for tonight, because you're
Oh,
filling the big seat.
exciting.
I'll just point out for the record, this matter had been carried multiple times. The
Yes.
board, this was initially scheduled before the board on April 2nd, 2024. The applicant had provided sufficient notice for that hearing date. However, as I mentioned, the board wasn't able to hear the case that time, so it was carried by voice and then public announcement several times, subsequently to April 16th, May 7th, June 4th, and now to this evening. And I'll just make the quick statement, because the applicant's notice was sufficient as of April 2nd, 2024, and the board duly carried the matter, the board would still have jurisdiction to hear and decide this case. So jurisdiction's proper. We are clear to proceed.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And this is the one. Okay.
I guess, Mr. Zelli, if you'd like to get us started, and we'll start swearing people in after you do your introduction.
Working microphone, we're starting off well.
Don't jinx it.
Knock on wood.
Okay, yeah, seriously. Good evening. For the record, Frederick Zelli, Post Pollock, on behalf of the applicant this evening. As indicated, this is for 1893 Long Hill Road, Block 12302, Lot 11, in your Millington Village District. The applicant wishes to add a 1.5-story addition as well as rear and side additions to the existing commercial retail building. Those of you who have been in the town, which I assume is many of you for some time, it was a pizzeria one upon a time. Most recently, it was an ice cream parlor. Tiny little building to the right-hand side of the Millington Fire Department. We're looking to create a second and third floor 2-story apartment, create additional commercial office space on the first floor, and create a garage at the basement level. There's also storage already in the basement level. The applicant also wishes to construct a 32 by 40 pole barn behind the existing building. The applicant proposes to formalize and pave the driveway and parking areas and to professionally landscape the property, which happens to be his business, so we know he'll do it, which will result in a net decrease in impervious coverage on the property from 82.6 to 72.2. So we're still above the 60 that's allowed, but it's an increase or improvement over what's there now. Applicant's principal, Ron Sachs, to my left, intends to personally reside in the proposed apartment and to use the newly created office space and the pole barn for his professional landscaping business. The pole barn itself would be used for parking of vehicles as well as for storage of supplies, materials, and equipment in order to keep the site nice and clean and tidy. The retail space would become a florist, currently intended to be utilized by Mr. Sachs' aunt. Project requires decent number of variances, but they all kind of fall together, as you'll see. We do need a D6 variance for height. We are looking at 43.3 feet from the lowest area, which is behind the building at the basement level, where 35 is permitted. We need a C2 bulk variance for 3.5 stories, where 2 stories are permitted, unless that's deemed to be subsumed by the D6.
Need a bulk for an apartment in excess of 1,000 square feet. 2,002 square feet is proposed, measured from the outer walls as per your ordinance. We need a variance for side yard setback for the accessory structure, 2.7 where 10 is required. Rear setback, again, for the accessory structure, 2.5 where 10 is required. And for height, and this is de minimis, but it's for height of the accessory structure, we're at 22.4 feet. The ordinance only allows 22 even in this zone. Finally, impervious coverage, as I indicated, 60 is permitted. We are currently at 82.6, and we're proposing to bring it down to 72.2. The use issue, otherwise, apartments are permitted in this zone as long as they're on the second story. We comply with that. Again, as I mentioned before, what we don't comply with is the size of the apartment. They're limited to 1,000, and we're at over 2,000. So I have three witnesses this evening. First is Ron Sachs, the applicant's principal. Second is Corey Fernandez, our architect. The third will be Bill Hollows, our engineer. He is presently in Summit. He believes he will be here later. What I had suggested with Ms. Coons, subject to the board's approval, of course, is for us to go forward with our first two witnesses. If Mr. Hollows is not here yet, we would defer to the next applicant. Hopefully, then still have some time at the end to be able to finish up afterward. So that is our game plan. If there's any questions for me.
The only issue is I'm not staying for the second, so you'll have to call me to come back to vote possibly.
Yeah, we'll have to,
Yeah.
let's look at the timing of everything
Okay.
if we get to that point. Hopefully we will.
We hope to get to the second one, but if this drags out. you
Cross
might
the
not.
bridge when we come to it.
Right, exactly.
Can actually I ask one question? Mr. Zelli, sorry. I had noted in my letter that you also needed a D5 because you're slightly above the maximum permitted density. And I don't know, you didn't mention that in the variances you're seeking.
I didn't mention that, and if we do, obviously, we will seek that as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay. Then I'd like to start with having Mr. Sachs and Mr. Fernandez both sworn in, if we could.
Absolutely,
great.
as well as our board professionals, as always, everybody knows the drill.
Just raise your-
Mr. Fernandez, and if you would, I know you're sitting, you're fine. All right, everybody can sit, you're all good. All right, do all of you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Great. And Mr. Zelli, you know, I'd like to ask at the beginning, do you have any exhibits you'll be presenting? Want to mark those ahead of time, or?
Mr. Hollows is going to be marking two colorized sheets, already been submitted, but he's just colorized.
All right, yeah, we'll, again, cross that bridge when we come to it.
Correct. As far as I know, everything else has been submitted ahead of time.
Fabulous.
Mr. Sachs, would you please just state your full name and mailing address for the record?
Ron Sachs, 15 Wentworth Drive, Berkeley Heights, New Jersey.
And what is your relationship to the applicant, Dron Ron LLC?
Owner.
And Dron Ron, does it just own this property, or is it a functioning business in some other sense?
It just owns the property.
Okay. And what do you do for a living?
I'm a landscape designer. We've been in business since 2008. We do higher-end landscape design build.
Could you please use the other mic, because I don't
Just
think we're
gonna
picking
get
you
it.
up anymore.
Is it not picking up?
Can we say that again?
Just hold it
Please.
closer.
Yeah, for the record.
My name's Ron Sachs. I own a landscape.
Hold on, you're going to
Wait
talk
till we
to
get
me.
to the mic
Is
working.
that one not working? It was before.
Apparently not. Now it's moved to this table, the mic doesn't want to work. Oh, there you go.
No,
It's
it's
working. I just, I
Seems to be
couldn't hear so.
Just don't press the button on it.
Don't
That's a
press the
mute
button,
button.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you just speak close to it.
you get real.
My name's Ron Sachs. I
Perfect.
own a landscape design
Thank
build
you.
company. What else did I do?
Just what does your company do? What's the name of it for starters?
Stonewater Properties. We do higher-end landscape design build.
And in the local area, where do you do your work?
Anywhere from Basking Ridge to Summit.
And just an initial question, and then we'll get to the other building as well. Where are you currently housing your business?
Around the corner at Barrett Roofing. I've been renting there, I think, for like 10, 12 years.
And you already own the current property, is that correct?
Yes, I bought it last March.
Okay. And we're going to have Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Hollows give us the technical details of both the property, the site plan, and the buildings. But just in your words, tell the board what it is you want to do with this property.
Trying to turn the ugly duckling into the best looking one on the street. I really like that whole. I've been driving past this like neighborhood because I rent down the street, and I really want to live there. So that's why I know it's a little bit more, but I want to have a master bedroom, and in case I have kids, like have 2 extra bedrooms downstairs. I like to keep things neat and orderly. That's why I want to do the barn in the back. Where I rent right now is basically the same square footage, and I fit everything in there. And then also opening, obviously, the florist, and then have my design center in the back where customers can come in instead of me going to their house all the time. So,
And other than a meeting like that, where customers are going to drive in, who else would be coming to the site with a vehicle and need parking?
just my brother, most likely, and like 1 or 2 guys.
And when your employees are there, if you start first thing in the morning, are you taking trucks out of the barn, something like that? Is that how your day works?
Yeah, we're not on site for very long. We're there for like maybe 5-10 minutes in and out. So, employees come in, they'll most likely go into the garage where trucks are coming out and just park right there inside the garage.
So it's swapping out one vehicle for another. We don't have to worry about parking for those particular vehicles.
Exactly. Our business, besides the florist, is mostly off-site. And the only thing where more customers coming in is like for design appointments or, for the florist. But I think the florist is going to be more delivery.
And you're going to be living there personally?
Yes.
All right. With anyone else?
Hopefully my girlfriend. Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
So that would be 2 vehicles?
Yes, and they would be in the garage.
Okay. All right. I'm going to show you some photographs that were submitted to the board. I'll represent that I took them sometime shortly before the filing of the application. I just want you to go one by one in the order that they're stapled and confirm with the board, please, that they accurately portray what the property looks like, and then just tell us what's shown in each picture.
The existing building and the gravel parking lot.
Okay, and in the back, I see a pole barn back there. Can you tell the board whose that is?
Yeah, that's the fire department's pole barn. Ours is actually going to look just like that, if allowed.
And just go through each picture and just tell what's shown.
Same thing. This is showing the downward slope to the back gravel parking lot, and the firehouse and the barn. Again. Basically, just the back of the building, and then we're proposing coming out, I believe, 20 feet off that. So that's basically where the garage would be, where the Jeep is. This looks to be like the back corner of the property, just looking to the back of the building.
And the large brick building next to it is the...
The firehouse, yeah.
Firehouse, okay.
Basically the same angle, just further back in the property behind us.
And just while we're looking at this photograph, and just to be clear, everybody's on the same one. The space further back and kind of between where I'm standing as the photographer and the black truck, is that property owned by you?
No.
Okay. Who owns that?
Cards Plumbing. I think that's like a paper road or something, and a certain section of it is owned by the firehouse. I think it's like a flag lot, whatever they call it.
And Cargs is also the property next to you on the
Yes.
opposite side from the firehouse.
Yes, that's correct.
So between their 2 lots, it's basically an L down and behind you. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yep, this is another view from that like paper street, whatever they call it, and the firehouse where they practice cutting in the roofs and stuff, and my building.
And the street that you're referring to as paver, it is actually gravel. That goes to where?
I don't know the name of the street, but it's a street in front of the firehouse.
So, well, it comes off of Crescent.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
this, what you're seeing in the bottom of this picture goes between the lot we just talked about and the pole barn of the fire department. Right?
Yes.
Does that go anywhere or just into the back lots of Cargs and those properties?
Yeah, it goes behind Cargs, and then there's like a driveway that goes up between our 2 buildings that goes to Long Hill Road.
But that doesn't lead into a residential section
No.
or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
That's just the side of my building, and this is the driveway for Cargs for their back area.
I'm sorry, guys. What picture are you guys looking at? Did you just? Okay, just making sure we're on the same page. Thank you.
You said this is the driveway for your building?
No, not mine. For Cargs, they have like a back entrance to get to the
Oh.
back of their property.
How would vehicles come to the back of your building?
It's facing the building to the left.
Oh, okay, I see, thank you.
And then the last photo doesn't really exist yet, right?
No.
Okay. Oh, what does that show us?
That shows my architect's awesome work over there. But yeah, just shows the brick facade. Basically, that portion would be the florist. Behind it would be my office. And then I don't know if you have the plans up there, but then it's two bedrooms, living room, kitchen, and then there's just a staircase that goes up to like a bedroom loft.
Is that the master bedroom up
Yes.
on the? So it's 3.5 stories. That's up in the half story. Is that accurate?
Mhm.
All right,
So
we'll have Mr.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It would be one apartment unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
It's one 2-story apartment.
Okay.
We'll have, Mr. Fernandez obviously will give us the details
Right.
about that.
Just want to get out of the way. Thank you.
And just again, that's some clarification on what you intend to use the pole barn for in the back.
Yeah, basically it's just gonna be storage for my trucks and like snow plows and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm gonna live there, so I don't wanna kinda like see a mess. So everything's gonna be inside of the garage.
And historically, since you've been in town, how do you store your stuff now? Is it indoors or outdoors?
It's, the only thing that's outdoors are trucks. All my, like, my tools, construction tools and snow plows, they're either in a hoop house or a shipping container.
And your trucks, if you were to move to this site, where would they be parked overnight?
In the garage, and like, there might be like one truck that'll be outside, because I only have 3 bays. I had to make it smaller to get the garage smaller. So like my skid steers and stuff like that would be in one bay, and then the 2 other bays would be a box truck and a dump truck inside.
And the truck outside would be most likely what? The truck that might be outside would be what? Dump truck, box truck?
Yeah, dump truck.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, and then your car and your girlfriend's car would be in the garage
garage,
underneath the house?
Mhm.
All right. Customers coming to the florist, where would they be parking?
Well, we dealt with the county with the parking and stuff. So there's a parking spot. They had us change. We'll have 1 parallel spot in the front, and I believe 3 or 4 down the side.
Going down the side of the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. And then is there also 1 or 2 going to be in the back?
Yeah. Right now, I think your drawing says 1, but there might be between the house garage or the building garage and the post beam garage. There's 1 spot, but we could put 2 spots there to add an extra spot if needed.
Mr. Hollows is going to discuss that more in detail in his testimony. All right, at this moment, I have nothing further for Mr. Sachs.
Okay, any questions from the board? Jerry?
First question, so, and this might be for your architect or something later on, but your application is for a 3-story building. I believe we permit 2, not 2.5, is that right? Because it was mentioned 2. But
The zone is 2, and this is 3.5.
3.5. Okay,
So there's a C variance for that.
Right.
Stories are C variance.
correct. I saw that, thank you. Or a height variance, however that's decided.
So
It exceeds
you
the
really
height as
have
well.
both.
Yeah.
The board could consider the C to be subsumed. That's entirely
We
up
can
to-
get to that later, but
Right.
it's both 43 feet and 3 stories, which exceeds both our height and our stories.
It is correct.
So my question is, what's on that 3rd floor that you need to create a 3rd floor that exceeds the height variance? What use do you need there?
It's my bed. It would be my bedroom.
Your bedroom, you mentioned you have 2 other bedrooms on.
Yeah, for like
for future
kids.
use.
Yeah.
For future use, but you don't need it now.
My girlfriend actually has a child. Yeah.
Okay, but you need 2 bedrooms now then?
Yes. Yeah. Because
Okay.
I'd like to have a kid. Yeah.
You-
Because I plan on staying there a while. Yeah.
I'm just asking
No, no
why,
worries.
why we're doing that, because it's, to me, it's a high test to meet the height variance and the story variance when it's not, I need to see exactly why that needs to be done, and can that be done with 2.5 stories?
One thing you need to bear in mind with this particular property because of the slope.
So I understand that, I
You
saw
know,
that.
we're looking
I
at it
know,
from
I
the
see
street,
Jeep in the
we're at
back.
2.5.
Yep, I saw it.
And there's, realistically, there's really nobody behind us, certainly not directly behind us. We have this vacant lot, then we have the gravel street, then we have the pole barn for the fire department. So
We
it takes
say
a
this all
while
the time.
before you get to
I
a
know,
residence.
but we say this all the time, we're not a precedent-setting board, but everybody will say, there's 3 stories over there, and I want 3 stories. There's 43 feet there, and I want it. That's the reason why I asked the question.
And I've said since the beginning, since Corey did this shot, this is our case right here. This tells you what's going to happen to the center of Millington
Right.
by this. And we're going from a streetscape now where you have this building that makes no sense in between the firehouse and Carg's building, versus that, which in our opinion anyway, just makes the streetscape. And that's important from a planning perspective, especially when, and we'll get into this later, but the case law, Grasso, speaking of a D6, says that what you want to look at is what the height does to the streetscape. The reason for the variance, the reason for a D6 in the first place, is because once you start getting more than 10% above what's permitted, now, in certain circumstances, you can be affecting your skyline. And that's more of a use concept than simple mathematical height. So that's why the D6 exists, and this application is kind of the poster child for that analysis. You know, how do we look at this? Does this offend your streetscape? And no, in this particular case, it's more consistent than the building that's there now. So
And
we're actually
Fred,
improving it.
To that point, will you have somebody to testify what the height streetscape-wise is compared to the firehouse next door?
I will ask both of our professionals, and off the top of my head, I don't know if they have those measurements, but we will find out.
And then,
Okay.
my next question is, thank you for that. My next question is about the number of construction vehicles. You said, I know I heard one dump truck. What's the total number of non-passenger vehicles?
3.
3?
Yep.
And how about like excavation equipment or,
Yeah, I mentioned that. That would be in the garage bay. That's why we don't have one truck outside.
what's the total number there that would be stored there?
Of trucks or
No,
equipment?
of equipment.
2 skid steers and an excavator.
So 3 of those. Any like chippers or stump grinders,
No,
any
not
of
that
that
kind
kind
of
of stuff?
landscaper, no.
Okay.
Also, most of the time, those like my skid steer has been on the site and excavator for 6 months.
Yeah,
So
seen
it's not
that.
like we don't store it. We
Yeah.
don't store a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, okay. Do you, that was my next question. Do you have another yard available to you for similar storage?
Well, I'm paying for that now. I'm trying. That's why I kind of got this.
Are you
I'm
going to
trying
continue to do that, or are you going to try to
That's
shut
the whole
that
reason
down?
I'm doing this.
Okay, you're
is
going to try
not
to get
do
rid
it,
of
yeah.
that and not do that anymore?
Mhm.
Okay. And then you mentioned also that there's a florist that maybe become a tenant of yours for the retail space.
Would be me. Yeah, I already have an
Your aunt or
LLC
something
for
in
it.
one of the things that said your aunt maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's been a florist for years.
Okay. And you also mentioned that there might be a delivery service with the florist.
Yeah, like a little minivan.
One,
Yeah,
probably one vehicle?
yeah, no.
Okay.
And where would
that's
that
all
be
I have for
parked
now.
overnight?
I'm sorry.
Where would that be parked overnight?
Really can be anywhere in the back or yeah.
Could be.
And also too, I did measure the buildings on the street, the bank, firehouse, and the car. I believe car's next to me too.
And what you did, what did you come up with?
The bank's like 50 feet, you know, because it's like 40 feet to the top, and then it's got another 10 foot on top.
Yeah.
And the firehouse, I think Corey has those
Corey has
numbers,
those?
those exact numbers. I was out there with the laser pointer.
And you measured from the front of your building or from the rear of your building?
I think you measure from, my height is from the back or the front.
So by ordinance, we have to measure our height from the back, so
From the
that's
back,
from the
the
lowest
lowest
point,
point,
which on
right.
your property
Okay.
is walk up, or the drive-out basement.
I asked because he said he measured, so I didn't know if he knew that. Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
Thanks, Jerry. This was on the dais when I got here.
Yes.
I believe it was. Did we enter this?
That
picture?
that was submitted.
Was it?
That's why you have it.
Okay, so, okay, that's great. Our attorney is looking,
I'll look for my copy.
so I'll wait to comment till it's.
No, you can go ahead.
It's
I'll
okay?
catch up.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Looking at this proposed streetscape, show it to the board, Jerry?
Can I see that?
Okay, this one? Okay, you have it, all right. How much, well, this will probably be a question better said later. Never mind, I'll save it for.
Mr. Fernandez probably can answer that one.
Exactly.
You know,
Okay.
I'm not sure I got that picture.
Deb,
can you confirm
It might be in black and white.
we got this more than 10 days in advance of tonight?
I think
Okay, all right, as long as,
Yeah, it was part of the original package.
okay,
I just
great,
took
as
it out
long
of
as
my
Deb
copy.
can confirm it, we don't need to mark it as an exhibit, I don't want to derail anything here.
Any other questions at this time? No? We can go to our experts? No questions, no comments? We're good? Okay. Anybody from the public have any questions?
For this
Come on.
witness, based on the testimony he provided.
Pam, you know the drill. If you want to ask a question, you got to come up.
Well,
That's right.
the other reason I'm asking, so if, Mr. Zelli, tell me if you disagree, but if you're asking about the height of the building, might be a question better reserved for the architect who's going to be testifying next.
Most likely.
But let's let her ask her.
She can ask.
Okay,
you.
all right, go ahead. I just, you know.
Would you mind?
We have a mic.
No, not yet.
Miss, I'm just going to ask very nicely if you could just limit what you're going to say to questions, not statements, not testimony, because if you do, then I have to swear you in, but it's the board's normal practice. They
I'll
reserve
attempt
that
to
the
follow
end.
the rules.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so could you give us your
Pamela
name?
Ogens, 36 The Crescent,
Me too.
Millington. If you're not familiar with the Crescent, there's Long Hill. There's the firehouse on Long Hill. There's my neighbor, then there's me. So I will see this property.
You're,
Was that too much information? I can,
That's fine from there. If you
It's-
could just address your question.
please, yeah, questions.
comparing the heights, we're going to be provided with comparing the height of the proposed building with, to the left, the firehouse, and that will come from the architect.
Yes.
Yes.
The total number of vehicles coming in and out is still not clear to me. I heard 3 trucks, plus a delivery truck, plus 2 passenger vehicles. How-
We can answer that. On the worst day, tell us what vehicles are going to be coming on and off of that site.
Usually two work trucks will leave every day, around 7:15.
And they're coming out of the pole barn,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And what comes on?
Two drivers, 2 other cars, like passenger cars will come.
And then what about from the retail business? You know, employees there, customers, what do you anticipate?
Yeah, one small little like minivan.
Would that be operated by the employee, or is the
Yeah.
employee also going to have a car?
Yeah, I mean, who's ever in the florist. It's 2 separate businesses, yeah, so.
And then, in your experience, how many customers would you anticipate at a busy time? Let's not talk about Valentine's Day, on a normal busy time.
Like I said, I think it's mostly gonna be like mail order, internet orders and stuff like that.
So you're not anticipating an active, very active kind of storefront business, it's mostly going to be otherwise?
Yeah,
And your 2 personal vehicles are going to be in the garage when they're on site?
yes.
So is it your testimony that somebody won't be able to just walk in to the florist on any given day and order something?
They can,
Okay.
yeah. But like, I don't expect much
So what's,
traffic in there.
what's the basis for your testimony on that you don't expect there to be a lot of walk-in traffic?
Not on that street, no. I think it's gonna be mostly mail order. I mean, internet, like flowers. I'm gonna get set up with one of those, like internet flower companies.
Is this based in part upon your experience in observing what your aunt's been doing over the years?
Yes.
And have you actually observed that, and what you see?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in like the horticulture. I went to school for horticulture. I've been in that whole industry for 20 years.
Do you plan on, sorry, I know it's your time, but do you plan on expanding that at all?
No,
Such as
yeah,
Mother's Day plants, that kind of
Are you
thing?
talking about like potted plant?
Potting
No,
plants,
no,
trees,
just-
anything like that?
No, not a nursery. No, you need
Because
a
you
lot
have enough
more
land in the back
No,
there.
you
I'm
don't
just
have
curious
that.
if you're looking
Yeah.
at something like that.
No, not at all.
If we own the additional lot in the back, maybe, but
Yeah.
so far the cars don't want to part with it.
But, so then, with the cars, I'm still not clear, if you have several employees for your business, 2 employees, that will take 2 trucks out at least?
Yeah, 2 trucks are. That's what we're not a huge company.
Yeah.
So like basically, it's 2 trucks go every.
How will the employees get there? And they'll
They,
park?
they drive. Yeah.
And they'll park in
Can we
your
let
lot?
Ms. Ogens,
Yeah.
finish her questions?
No, those are all good questions that are, what I'm asking is, I'm having trouble, there's employees coming on site with cars, there's a florist with a delivery minivan, there's occupants of the apartment with their vehicles, there's work trucks. It's not a real big piece of property, and I looked at the site plans from March that were posted on the internet, and I'm having trouble visualizing where all these vehicles, which now are at Barrett's, which has a lot of room from my perspective, to
Well, I don't rent
this.
the whole place. I just rent a certain, like, I rent 4 rows.
So-
Yeah, I rent 4 rows. So, like, if you're worried about noise and stuff, trust me, the fire alarm
No,
and the train
noise
will
was
be-
not my
okay.
question. It was more the in and out, the traffic, where a car is going to be. Are they going to be parking in front of the building? There's limited spots in front of the building. As far as noise, I would imagine, you say the trucks leave at 7:15 in the
Yeah.
morning. I live 2 doors from the firehouse.
Mhm.
I'm used to noise. Tracks are behind my
Yep.
house. I know noise is not an issue to me. The traffic in and out, it's currently, and there's no sidewalk on my street. And there's a lot of people walking now to the brewery.
Mhm.
And I'm concerned for the foot traffic.
Well, for the landscape business, literally we get there in the morning and we leave. We don't go back. It's not like we're not delivering stuff for the, we're not delivering stone or anything like that. We leave and that's it. We come back at 5:30. So don't worry about, the landscape portion, in and out, in and out. And the florist is just, the little van that's going to be, would be delivering flowers. So it's not going to be in and out all day with trucks if that's what you're concerned about.
Okay,
I wouldn't make any money if the trucks kept coming back. They got to stay out on jobs.
okay.
And also bear in mind, it's hard to imagine, but there's actually a total of 10 really parking places on the site. We're listing 8, but then the pole barn itself is not included in those calculations.
Where are you getting 10? Behind the building?
There's 1 in the front, and then you have 2 in the garage itself, that's 3, 4 going down the side, and then 1 additional on the back.
So the garage, the picture that I have only shows the front, so the garage is in the bottom of the slope,
Level garage going into the back, it's a rear loads, that's 2 spaces right there.
at the lowest part of the slope,
That's where their personal vehicles will be parked.
in the garage. And then they'll be parking in front of the garage also? Like, if you have guests, where are they gonna park?
I think we have like 10 spots total. Are you talking about like after hours?
Yeah, if you,
Yeah, I think
you're gonna be parked in the garage, but
Yep.
you have 3 cars coming to visit.
Yeah, at the end, not during business hours. I think there's 3 or 4 down the side of the firehouse. There's 2 parking spaces between the.
Right now, it's
So
showing
do you know the driveway going down the hill?
Between
The
the
firehouse and my
firehouse
building?
and your
Yeah.
property.
It's about like that.
Excuse me, at this point, it's getting almost,
Okay, all right.
it is into testimony,
Yeah.
so we're going to swear you in. at this
Okay.
I still gotta
then-
swear you.
Then I appreciate that, I
No.
just, oh,
I need you to raise your right hand because you made statements and I have to swear you in order for the board to consider anything you said. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provided and that you may provide in the future will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Thank you very much.
I think that's all the questions I have. I don't have any pictures, and are there any provided of the pole barn?
Their plans have been submitted, and Mr. Fernandez will be discussing that as well.
And they'll be available online with the
They already are,
application?
and I saw them
Looks like he has
online.
pictures.
They're already there.
Oh, because I went on today, and I just see the site application from March and the
Essentially,
documents.
it's the same, it might be a different manufacturer, but it's essentially what the firehouse pole barn looks like. It's a little smaller actually than theirs, but generally speaking, it's the same exact concept. 3 garage doors, steel pole barn.
Okay. And just a reminder of the Millington Bank, when that was built, and they got variances for height and size and to the street. And if you speak to, and I know this is just comment, but it's way out of proportion for downtown Millington. It always has been, it always will be. Let's not make the same mistake. Thank you.
Mr. Zelli, could I throw out a potential condition of approval to maybe get ahead of some of the traffic concerns that might be related? Mr. Sachs mentioned that his employees would be coming to the site, taking the trucks, leaving off-site. Would you guys stipulate to having your employees park in the pole barn instead of, in the other spots? Sound acceptable? Okay.
Well,
all right.
I mean, let's pause, right? Because there could be a scenario where that's not possible, right? like, how can you require that the employees park in the pole barn as a condition of approval of this? What if there's something that makes it an impossibility to park in the pole barn? What if a tree falls on the pole barn? I'm just saying,
For the life
let's
of the
think
pole
about
barn.
that before we.
I figured I just,
It could be phrased to the extent that bays in the pole barn become available.
Right.
The
When the com-
employees
Okay.
will use them,
Yeah.
so they're not left empty.
So when the commercial vehicle's removed, they'll be
Yeah.
replaced by the, right?
And that is the intention, that was the sense.
Right.
That's
I didn't hear that they were gonna park in there, but thank you for clarifying. Okay.
I have a question. I believe that you'd said that you were planning on, you know pretty well that you are going to be using probably 8 spaces in a day, but you're cleared for 10, I believe was what you had said.
So we're showing 8 on the plan,
Okay,
but we did not include any of the space in the pole barn.
I understand. Okay. And then my next question was going to be, your aunt has the florist business, which you think is going to be a pretty well-oiled business, because this is something that she's been doing for a while and she's going to be going into that space. Does your aunt have any employees that come in to that business to aid and assist her during the day, or is she just like, she's just on her own?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all I have right now is the LLC. I mean, it's going
I
to
see.
take a little while to grow the business.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's probably going to be like either me or my brother doing deliveries until we make some money to do it. I
Okay.
can't bring in too many people right away. you know?
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That being said, I think we can hear from the architect at this time, correct?
In case,
What
unless
I
there's no one else from the
Anyone
public?
else from the public? No?
Okay.
Close to the public.
Good evening. I'm just going to set up the plans real fast.
Oh, there's the big picture.
Can you move it a little to the right and turn it a little bit in case anybody from the public would like to see that? Well, we need to see it too, so.
Just slightly canted.
Slightly in this direction.
Struggling over there.
And there we go. You
Perfect.
see it, Randy?
Yeah, it's okay. And you do have that in your packet also.
This rendering?
Mr. Fernandez, would you please give us your full name and business address?
Corey Fernandez, 50 Division Street, Somerville, New Jersey.
And would you please give us the benefit of your professional and educational background?
Sure. So my license is in good standing here in New Jersey, also in New York and South Carolina. I received my Bachelor of Architecture here in New Jersey at NJIT. I provide testimony in nearby townships, Union, Bernards, Hillsborough, Somerville. And I've been operating my business since 2016.
Okay. We deem you an expert.
Thank you.
You're qualified.
And you've designed the residential and commercial mixed building, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would you please describe first what we have presently, not only the building that's there on our property now, but the surrounding buildings?
Sure. So the existing building is a one-story masonry structure on a large, comparatively to the building lot, which has a steep slope going down towards the back. Neighboring, if you're looking at the building from the street, neighboring on the left is the existing Milton Firehouse. Neighboring on the right is a 2.5-story retail structure. And then Across the street, down the road a little bit, is the bank, I believe. Yeah.
And to your knowledge, does the retail structure to the right also have apartments, residential use above?
I've never been in there, but there's air conditioning units. All right, it looks to be residential when you look at it. Yes.
All right. And take us through what you've designed for this property.
Sure. So, my client Ron came to me with the program, which is he's looking to move his family or his growing family into this same building where he wants to operate his business out of, landscaping business, and then also potential for a florist shop. So I'll go through the plans here. So when we're looking at this 3D rendering, and this is a photo montage, so it takes my 3D proposal and it montages it onto the existing streetscape in proportion to what's already existing. So this first floor is what's existing right now. The brick on the front would remain as is, and currently it has a low sloping roof that goes back towards the rear yard. So the proposal here is to flatten out that first floor ceiling so we can then build on top of it. This would be the second story if you're considering it from the front, third story if you're considering it from the back. So the second story would be the garden apartment, more or less. It's about 1,036 square feet. And the half story, which is a steep pitch roof, would contain a loft, which we were able to obtain the third bedroom, which was part of Ron's intended program. So I'm going to go through the plans. Take you through each one of these floors. So this is the basement. Right now it's used for storage and utilities down there. There is a walkout in the back currently.
Mr. Hernandez, I'm sorry to cut you off. The plans you're looking at, these are dated August 29th, 2023?
Correct.
Make sure we're looking at the same thing. No revisions on that?
No revisions.
Great, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I believe that everything I'm going to be presented here today has already been submitted to the board.
Just confirming, appreciate it.
Agreed. So on the lowest story, which is the existing basement story, it's a proposed two-car garage. This garage is to serve the apartment up above. So this is for private use. Also, as one of the additions is the switchback stair, which accesses all of the levels of the entire building from the basement level all the way up to the second level, which is the apartment.
Just to clarify, it doesn't actually go to all, it does not go to the loft, right?
It does not go to the loft. This floor plan has the existing retail space that's there now. It was used as an ice cream parlor. There's an existing toilet, and there's an existing preparation area. More or less, we didn't do any renovation to that space other than make a larger picture window towards the front, just to be more in context with the streetscape. And the existing preparation area would remain mostly intact as well. It could be reused as a preparation area for the florist shop. In the back of that first story is a storage area, a toilet room, and a proposed office. My understanding that that office space is to be used for the landscaping business.
And just to keep it in context, that office space is part of the rear addition, so it's above the garage. Is that accurate?
Yes, that office space is directly above the garage. So the intent here is to keep most of this first floor intact. Okay, the floor above the retail area is a two-bedroom apartment with the family room, bathroom, laundry, and a kitchen to the back. That same winding stair comes up, and that's how you would enter and egress the apartment. There's an additional stair as a form of egress coming out of that apartment, which is, for one, prudent design, and two, will be a matter of code if the building moves into construction. And then the loft here is really the half story. And I'll go back to the front image to explain how that's working, but there's a steep roof that comes up from the eave of the second story And that pitched roof is designed in such a way to give us usable area, which would be the half story above. So you come up a stair, there's a small nook area, and then the master ensuite or the primary ensuite on the back with the master bedroom, bathroom, and a walk-in closet. So the entire third bedroom is in what would otherwise be an attic space.
And the bathroom area is above the winding staircase, is that?
Correct. So the bathroom area then stretches across the stair coming up.
How do you access the area in the front of the building called attic?
You don't.
Okay.
It's
Permanently closed?
attic. Yeah. Either if utilities end up being in there's going to be an access hatch, which is also required by code, but it's going to be like your attic, filled with insulation and not meant to be utilized.
So you'd access it through probably one of the 2 bedrooms?
Most likely through one of the, when we usually do, we'll tuck that access hatch into a closet.
So it's accessible, but it's not.
It's usually a 2x2 panel on the ceiling. You have an insulated panel, you move the panel, you set up a ladder. The few times you got to get up there.
It's not for putting your Christmas tree up there.
No, more like your decorations and things like that. Even if that, and with all the insulation you got to put up there nowadays. So looking at the front elevation, the existing brick would remain. We're introducing a new metal canopy and awning with some gooseneck lighting. And then this volume right here is the apartment, and then this A-frame shape above is the loft. But you're looking there, that window actually goes into the attic. So that's not actually usable. When you're on the back, there's a window that's looking out from the bedroom. If you're looking at the side of the building with the new stair addition, this is the new stair that's going all the way up from the basement to the second floor. And it stops before it goes to the loft. We're looking at the side of the building that faces the firehouse. There is a cantilever structure there, which helps get that head height to get the loft. And this is the rear of the structure, and you can see that there's an additional story because of that slope on the property from the front to the back. I did add a conceptual section here to understand how all these levels are being integrated, but there's an existing basement, the 2-car garage. You need a higher ceiling height in the garage, 8 feet, which means there's a few steps up coming from the existing retail area to the office area. Because the floor of the second floor is the existing roof of the building now, that height's already set, right? So that level would just come across, which means the existing retail is 10'10" tall, that would remain, and the office would be 8'7". And then from there, the minimum height typically for a dwelling would be 8 feet, which would be the apartment level. And then the loft above, it's like when you're in a cape, it's going to have the slope ceilings, right? So it's a little bit complex to define the height, but the idea is that there's a usable height, 7'6" tall, which can be a bedroom can be carved out of.
But that's still defined as a half-story, though?
That's still defined as a half story. So I'll go over a little bit of that data. And excuse me if it's a little bit approximate from Fred's testimony in terms of height. I might have rounded, right? So the rear height I have at 43'4" from grade to ridge. So from the ground to the ridge, 43'4". Now the front of the building, where you enter that front door is 37'8" from the ground to the ridge. Now the way we took some measurements of the nearby buildings, I'd be hard to say that this is absolutely definitive, but it's close in terms of how we could take a measurement from the street. So we shot a laser from the ground up to some of the elements on the nearby buildings to get some approximate heights. So shooting a laser from this concrete sidewalk up to the underside of this soffit here of the cupola. is 35 feet. So that's to say that the top of the cupola would be very close, if not slightly above, the top of our structure in the front. So the building will not be taller than the firehouse.
From the back?
We did not measure the firehouse from the back, only the front. We were focused on how this building was going to appear next to the adjacent buildings. The bank, we lasered at 37 feet from the peak of the gable, but that bank has a large cupola on top, which we were unable to measure unless we go up there and physically measure it, but assuming that cupola's got to be 10, 12 feet taller than the building. So in terms of the nearby architecture, this building's in proportion to it.
What about the building, cart buildings next to it?
Yeah, I believe we shot that from the front and the back. I think it's right around 35 feet to the peak. I think that building maxed itself out in terms of the height.
From the front or the back?
From the front.
So if that's 35 from the front, ours is 2 to 3 feet higher.
37'8", so about 2'8" taller. But I'd like to talk about the height for a little bit. So, there's different ways height can be interpreted, right? And every township actually has a different definition for height that's also different than the building code. But when you're doing a gabled roof, it's very different than if you do a flat roof. Meaning that if I took this building and I showed to you 35 feet with a flat roof, it would appear much larger. It would appear much taller. Having a steep slope roof, and this is about as steep as you get, 16 on 12, it lowers the eave substantially. So while the peak is higher, the eave is still in context with the neighboring buildings. So in terms of scale and proportion, I think that's why it's a little bit taller, but it's not obtrusively taller because of that geometry on the front of the building.
And you've indicated that the firehouse is actually, at least with the cupola, is actually taller.
Yes,
So
with the cupola.
Right.
In the master bedroom loft area, what's the ceiling height?
So in your plans, there's a grade area. I don't know, it didn't show up too well on my plan. No, it showed up on yours. Okay, so there's a very slight line here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a grade area. That area is where the ceiling, because it's sloping ceiling, is at 6'8". After there, it's sloping up to the height of an 8-foot ceiling.
So it's not like these are 10 or 12-foot ceilings. They're pretty much the minimum amount that's usable for a bedroom space.
Yeah, against Ron's wishes, because we kept it lowering and lowering to the minimum, 8 foot. Yeah.
How high is it in the middle?
To the underside of the roof.
Yeah, the ceiling and on the loft, I think you're calling it, or the 2.5, the half a story. It's a sloped ceiling, correct? Where
It's a sloped ceiling, but at some point, we build a flat ceiling structure. So while the roofs keep sloping, we can choose many different lines of where to put that flat
so
ceiling.
the height on that floor is the same all the way around. It's not as if the ceiling slopes to the walls.
So, yeah, no, that's not true. It's a gray area. From that edge of the gray area down, it's sloping. Meaning if I were to keep walking this way, the ceiling is sloping in the
That's
room.
what I thought you were describing.
Yes.
So from the center of that room, from floor to ceiling, what's the height?
8 feet,
8 feet, okay.
yes.
Mr. Fernandez, what page are you on with those plans? It's A101?
A101,
I
correct.
think, so that would be where your 3'4" dimensions are?
Yes.
The gray area is in between. It's just not showing up probably on the
Oh, I see.
photocopies.
I got you.
Yeah, it's very light on my copy too.
Right.
Yeah.
So in between
if you look
those
closely,
two
there's
would be
a
the-
there's,
got you.
The 8-foot ceiling, and everything out to the outside is lesser.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You want to take us through show us your elevations again, or even the streetscape, and let us know what kind of materials you're contemplating for the exterior of the building?
So we made a decision early on to keep the existing brick. That's existing brick. This sort of red brick is used throughout this streetscape. You can see it all the way down to the automotive shop here, retail, the red brick, and then on the firehouse. So the red brick stays. I think it matches well. The rest, we're looking at like a hardy clapboard cement board, which to have different orientations you could put it. So on the first floor, we're looking at a horizontal clapboard pattern, and on the second floor and above, we're looking at a board and batten style. So it's a farmhouse style. I think the geometry is very similar to the streetscape up and down Long Hill Road there. And also just to mention, right, that I think this project fills a gap, which is, right, we've got taller structures, and then we've got this one-story structure. And in terms of the rhythm of the street, it's currently out of rhythm. And I've heard the the statement that we don't want to make a mistake we did previously and go out of rhythm with the street like you did with the bank. But this is in rhythm. It's a 2'8", okay, but it's still within the same rhythm and pattern that's going down the street.
Just one quick question. The exterior stairway that's on the firehouse side, what is that constructed of?
That's going to be a metal stair painted.
Is that for a fire code, or is there a reason for that?
Yeah, so when you're doing a residence above a commercial, it's required to be an R3 rather than an R5, a typical residential, which means it's going to require 2 means of egress.
What
And
kind
it's
of roof?
prudent design. Roofing will be asphalt shingle roofing, architectural shingles. You can see color and pattern similar to other structures.
And the shed roof in the front, is that metal?
Yes,
Is this the color of the final build?
that's the proposed color, correct.
How did the goosenecks work? Are they, to my eye, it looks like they're going to shine on the top of the shed roof, which I'm assuming is not the idea.
No, that's how they
That is the
typically do.
idea?
Yeah. Now that you've seen it, you're going to see it all over the place. It lights up the top of the awning.
But
Yeah.
it does not create light pollution, it's not going to be
It's
bouncing
accent
off or
lighting.
anything like that.
It's accent lighting, yeah.
Is there also lighting?
There's going to be required lighting underneath this awning. You're required to have a certain amount of foot candles for egress lighting coming out of that door. This is accent lighting. There will be some undermounted lights for general purpose lighting.
And what other exterior lighting would there be on that building?
So once again, we're proposing the gooseneck on the top. That's more accent lighting. This is a conversation, I don't think we got there yet, but I'd actually, like to hear testimony from the owner and what the ideas were. But in terms of the architectural lighting, what I'm showing here is accent lighting, and the actual public safety lighting, I think that would be probably Bill Hollow's testimony.
Would you have basic lighting at the doors and things like that, just typical security lighting?
Every door entryway is going to have a light at it, right? Typically, those lights will be on a timer, dusk to dawn type timer. Yeah.
Let's switch gears and talk about the pole barn, which I understand you didn't design. That's something that's essentially going to be imported and installed, correct?
Correct.
Take us through that, if you would, please. And for the record, those plans have been submitted with the original package.
Thank you.
While he's doing that, I actually have a question for the basement. Is that counted in the story count? I always ask the
No,
question,
it
sorry.
does if 50% of its walls are above ground.
Are the walls for the basement above ground?
More than 50. Yeah, more than 50%.
Okay. So, assuming it's 50% or 49%, is it the enclosed garage that is making this 3.5 stories as opposed to 2.5 stories?
Yes.
Okay, So if,
Can you design the building? How would you
Well-
design the building without it?
pilings, I mean, they do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, well, how would the building look if you didn't have the garage? Would you have to put it on stilts in the rear?
Been to Seaside Park?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, well, exactly, yeah. So, okay,
Right.
so,
So there would be an option, potentially, to have this only be 2.5 stories, but aesthetically, having the garage, which potentially is what takes it into the 3.5 stories, is preferable.
That's preferable. There's different ways you could do it, even if you had it, you called it a carport, and you were able to at least screen it properly, so it didn't look so unbalanced, like you were sitting on stilts. Could be an option.
The height calculation remains the same from the rear.
I know, but there's
For
still a
existing,
variance
yeah,
the
for
stories.
grade up, but the stories is based on the use and the, right.
Can I ask, while we're talking about that, I was gonna ask this at another time, it's probably, you can answer it later if you want, but why did you choose, or the owner, do we know why the owner chose to keep that building instead of just starting all over? It's a small building, it seems like you're taking a lot of effort to build around it, rather than just clean slate it. Is that an economic thing, or is that, like, you did mention the red brick, which I think that's a great idea to keep it consistent with the neighborhood and everything else, but how was that decision made? Was it thought of just to level it and start over?
Yeah, I think because the existing retail space that's the ice cream parlor suits it, an easy conversion
Okay,
into the floral shop. So
so it's the utility that.
it's the utility.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about the garage. So it's a prefabricated,
Prefabricated metal garage. The height of the garage from base to peak,
You mean pole barn, not garage?
pole barn.
Okay, just to be clear.
Understood. The height of the pole barn from base to peak is 22 foot 4.5 inches. It has metal corrugated panels on all sides. Ron and I were discussing earlier that the color of it would be the same palette as the building, a mixture of black and white. And then the footprint is 40 foot by 32 foot with 3 12 foot by 12 foot overhead doors.
Why can't you make this pole barn 20 feet high? Why does it have to be 22.4?
My understanding is that it's basically like purchasing a prefabricated product, so they have certain heights they've already developed with the materials they're constructing it out of. So this is like a standard offering from their catalog.
And is there an option for a 20-foot tall pole barn?
Yes.
So why can't we use that? Is there a reason why you need the extra 2.5 feet?
and I'm trying to.
Hold on, why don't you use for the garage door height.
So the garage doors are 12 feet high. It looks like from the drawing.
Yes.
In his testimony.
Yes, and also that also gives me like more storage because I made the garage actually smaller. Because the actual one door is actually 10 foot. To get it closer into the property line, I made this door at 10 foot wide instead of 12. So I'm trying to get it like at least shelving in between the bays so I can put as much storage in as possible.
But does that impact the height?
Yeah, it'll bring my ceiling height down with the doors for storage. I mean, I can go back to the drawing board with it, but I know it had something to do with my garage door height.
Okay. There's a reason why. you
Yeah,
need
my
the
box
20.
truck is like 11 too tall,
Okay.
and I'm trying to get that in there.
Corey, if you hold for just 1 second, I'm not sure I brought this in specifically. Mr. Sachs, you did take measurements of the fire department's pole barn, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you come up with as far as those measurements, just to give the board some comparison?
It's 22 high. I have 40 by 40.
And the building itself,
40 by 40?
40 by 40, and yours is 40 by 32.
Yes.
But that's not impacting the streetscape, so we don't really care what the fire department's pole barn looks like.
Well, actually, I would argue that they're both not impacting streetscapes, since this is all the way back and down at the same level as the fire department's. Granted, the fire department's further back.
Right.
Understood, but it's at the same level as this.
Does front on Crescent, though. So the fire department does front the Crescent.
Mhm.
So the
We're
fire,
talking about our building here that we're talking about.
Yeah.
For streetscape purposes.
If I-
is to the rear of the proposed commercial building.
Mhm.
The fire department's actually fronts on Commerce.
I don't know, so if you can look at the tree choices I chose, to block it. I'm doing slender silhouette, liquid ambar down the side, which get 30 foot tall. And the junipers on the side I chose are, columnar, and they're gonna be like 3 to 4, and they get up to 20 foot tall. So once that grows in, you're not really gonna see much back there at all. And then on the back side, I think we have a 8 foot or a 6 foot fence, whatever the highest fence you like. Let us put in.
And so to, the question from the public, there will be screening from what you would see from Crescent or any houses that are
Yeah.
visible?
Both sides will have larger columnar trees. Right side is gonna be, evergreen, left side, because it's a firehouse, is gonna be deciduous. And then the back will have a fence, so they're screening all sides, and I believe there's also a fence on the engineer on the facing to the right. So it's such a drop off too, so it's almost gonna be like, you're not gonna be able to see that.
I know we're going off course, but we might as well close the loop on this. What's there now?
Nothing.
Just to be clear, when you talk about a prefab pole barn, we're not bringing this whole unit in on a truck. It's prefab material, pieces, components that are then assembled on site.
Correct. Fred, I want to talk a second about the area. And we might have to refine that number. It's just, I know you said about 2,000 square feet. If you were to take the footprint of the first floor and double it, it would be 2,000 square feet. But the usable area of the loft is 502 square feet. So the apartment's 1,036, the loft is 502. So the net square footage of the apartment is, let me see, 1,538.
Okay, and we will, I'm not sure why we have the discrepancy, but obviously your testimony is going to be more accurate. So it's 1,538. Obviously, you still need the variance. But
Yes.
Appreciate that, thank you. Anything else on the pole barn?
Unless there's any questions, I have no further testimony.
On those buildings, are they painted or are they enamel in place?
They're painted, yeah, painted metal. Yep.
Nothing further from Mr. Fernandez at the moment?
Okay. Do you have anything else to offer? Mr. Hollows is on his way.
Mr. Hollis should be on his way. I don't see him yet. So if it's acceptable to the board, as we suggested, we'd like to pause our application, let our friends in the gallery take over, and then we'll come back for the first time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
public questions for this witness perhaps?
Can
or if you're gonna-
I actually
Oh,
have a couple
yeah,
questions
Melissa's
too.
here too.
Yeah. Do you have any signage proposed for either your business or the florist?
Actually zoom in on there, there's a little black sign, I think, on that drawing, right, Corey?
Yeah, we did. We put a small hanging sign here. Bloom and Petal.
Is it hanging perpendicular to the street or parallel to the street?
It's on an arm. It's hanging perpendicular to the street.
Nothing for your landscaping business, right? It's not that.
Can I ask you about the sign?
Yes.
What's the material that the sign is made from?
It's acrylic. The rod will be metal and the sign will be acrylic.
And will the gooseneck lighting light that sign, or no? It won't, right?
The proposed gooseneck lighting will not light that sign.
Okay. And do you know if the specifications match our ordinance?
No.
We will certainly accept as a condition that
Okay.
the actual sign will comply with the
Okay.
ordinance.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
You said there'd be some lighting under the awning for the doorway. Is there any chance that that's going to light the sign as well? I understand the sign will be under the awning, correct?
Correct. The proposed location adjacent to the door with lighting underneath the awning, incidentally,
Oh, there it is. Mm-hmm.
will be lighted.
I have a quick question about commercial vehicles that you'll be having in the back, accommodating, your workers that'll be coming in the morning and getting into those commercial vehicles and leaving. Are you planning to do any sort of expansion of the existing asphalt back there, like widening the driving space? Is it going to be gravel? Are you going to pave it back there?
It's it should be on the plan. It's a paved area.
It's going to be paved?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we're losing so much impervious, because we're actually constraining and well-defining the driveway, the parking area. Now you just kind of have gravel all over the place, but this is
Right.
going to be well-defined and asphalted.
Okay.
For the board professional, it's my intention to have Mr. Hollows address your report, so unless there's something specific for Mr. Fernandez.
Any questions from you?
No,
Okay.
okay.
Any questions from the public for this witness?
Miss, microphone.
The distance from the living structure with the flowers to the pole barn. And is the pole barn accessed from Long Hill Road only, and not Commerce? The paper street is Commerce Street. I know there was a question, that's the name of the street.
So one of those questions I know the answer to, which is the pole barn is going to be accessed from Long Hill. The second question, I believe it's going to be identified on the engineering plans, the distance from the corner of the garage to the corner of that proposed pole barn. I know we went back and forth on that, so the dimensions should be on that engineering plan. And it's enough for a car to pull out of that proposed two-car garage and then pull out of the structure. I don't think at the same time, but yes, one at a time.
And also, just to be clear, we could not access our property from Commerce even if we wanted to, because you have an entire vacant lot in between the back of our lot and Commerce. So we don't own that property. Cargs actually owns it.
And perhaps this would help in relation, the rear lot line of this subject property is the Long Hill Road near side of the fire department's generator pad. So across from the back of the building at the generator is the back of this subject property. So there's a significant amount of vacant parcel to the paper street, where commonly you would see activities at the fire department congregate.
Any other questions from the audience? We're close to that, close to them. I guess at this point, we'll just have to,
Well, I would suggest we can take a break. Our other two members are on their way. Hopefully we'll be here shortly, so we can take a break until
okay,
There to
take
start
a
the
break
next
till
application.
9:05?
Or, yeah, until we get here.
Okay. Okay, we'll take a break. That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we're back on the air at, what time is it? 9:07. And to let the record show, I'm gonna retake the roll, since we've had some shifting of members. Mr. Aronio.
Yes.
Ms. Brennan is now recused from this next application.
And has left the building.
Has left the building, yes. Mr. Giannakis.
Here.
Mr. Flatley.
Here.
Mr. Rosenberg is still excused for this evening. Mr. Watts.
Here.
Ms. Collins.
Here.
Vice Chairman Grosskopf.
Here?
And Chairman Correct.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Okay. So, we are continuing with 977 Valley Road, Gillette, Block 10601, Lot 8, Downtown Valley Commercial Zone District, Planned Shopping Overlay in the BD Zone District. Applicant is ready and here, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Oh, there's something up there.
very good.
I think it's just still in the
Okay.
audience.
All
Where'd they
righty.
go?
Chairman, you have to guess who the lawyer is and who the client is. Right before we get started, yeah. Okay, hold them to where at time. I'm Richard Skolnick on behalf of the applicant, R Doggies Inc., which is a franchisee of the Dog Stop. You've identified the address and the block and lot. You're all familiar with the Valley Mall. It's had some challenges. The proposal is for my client to take approximately 8,000 square feet of what had been the Pathmark way back, some space. There was Kings took over the Pathmark, but not all of the Pathmark space. So we're at about 8,000 square feet of space that's been vacated. The only external construction is an 1,800 square foot dog run area behind the building with an 8-foot fence. We do need a variance for 2 feet on the height of the fence. We have a use variance because although part of the proposed use is retail, there's some other uses that are not permitted in the zone. We're seeking site plan approval tonight as well. We think we have a use that makes sense, that's appropriate for a shopping center. We're not aware of any zone in Long Hill where dog boarding or dog daycare are permitted uses, and it's certainly a use that our society requires. We think we can have a clean, healthy, safe place for doggy daycare and boarding while people go on vacation, while they go to work, while they need some help. So we have Rob Lax here. He's the principal of the entity. He's going to do most of the testimony. We have David Weinberg, his partner, who is also here if you have any questions. We're going to have 2 minutes of testimony from a representative of the shopping center owner, essentially to say, look, we'd really like to fill the space, and then we'll have a few minutes of testimony on that use variance.
Other than the people directly involved in the business, do you have a planner or engineer, anybody?
We do.
Okay.
Ms. Slyer is
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah,
I'd like to have all your people sworn in at one time.
that's fine. So David
And you can
Olga,
swear off.
Dennis,
Yeah.
and I will all get sworn in.
Okay. Do all of you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do. Great. Thank you very much. Everybody's
Thank you.
sworn, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, thank you. All right, proceed.
Okay, Rob, could you tell the board just a little bit about your background as a business person and working with dogs?
Sure. I'm a Long Hill resident. I was educated.
Speak closer to the mic. We're having a little difficulties.
Is that better?
Yes, yes.
As I said, I'm a Long Hill resident. I was educated, I got my BS degree from New York University and my MBA from Syracuse University, and I spent 35 years as a real estate manager. During that time, I've always been involved with dogs, and for the last 25 plus years, I've been with the Seeing Eye in Morristown, raising, training their dogs to be guides for the blind. I'm still doing that. I'm awaiting my 22nd dog for that. I also have my national certification from Animal Behavior College as a certified dog trainer, and I intend to use my skills that I've had with dogs over the years to run a successful business in town and bring certainly a needed use to the residents of town.
Okay.
Can you tell us about your franchise and what it's designed to do?
The franchise has a whole number of levels. We have a retail component, and we intend to, it's a problem-solving retail component. We're not going to be, we wouldn't necessarily have the sorts of items that you would normally find, like for food, in Petco or PetSmart. We're going to have much higher end, very good high-end foods to deal with certain problems that dogs have, like digestive issues. So our staff will be well-trained, that if you have an issue with your dog, we will have the product, hopefully, that can give your dog much more health. We will also be doing daycare for the dogs. We'll have indoor and outdoor spaces for them. Dogs that are running around and happy, are much better behaved, and certainly will benefit the clientele who has that. We're also going to have a grooming facility there, so the dogs can be groomed. And if anything happens to the dog while they're on site, dogs get messy when they're on site. We'll be able to groom them before they head back out to their owners. And I'm, based on my training background, I'm going to be offering training to our clientele, either that I train their dogs personally, or I work out that I have them come in and I show them how to train their dogs. Obviously, anything that I would train their dog, eventually would have to have a meeting with the owner, so to transfer that information of how the dog is trained and how to properly use it. And of course, we're also going to be boarding dogs. Again, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, summer breaks. People need a place to put their dogs, a nice, safe environment to put their dogs. And we will have that space available. Our spaces are completely surveillance, so owners will have the ability, if they wish, to actually watch their dogs in their kennel area to see that their dog is having a good time. Also to view them in the different play areas that we have. And of course, Dave, my partner, and myself and our manager, who we have yet to hire, will certainly have access to all the cameras and alarms that if anything untoward should happen, we would be alerted immediately.
You have 24/7 monitoring
Yes.
on that. So we have the boarding. What hours are the daycare going to be? And can you explain that to the board?
Typically, the store would be open from about 7 a.m. to about 7 p.m. for dogs coming and going. We'll have half-day daycare or full day. People will drop off their dogs and then come back and pick them up, down the road. We won't have a lot of traffic in and out of the store during the day. It's really just drop off and pick up times. And again, 7 o'clock in the morning, the shopping center, most of the shopping center is not open. So we'll be handling dogs when most people aren't there. And of course, they're there for the entire day. At 7 o'clock at the end of the day, very few people will be there.
How many dogs would you have capacity to board?
Would we? We have 75 kennels that we're currently planning to put in of various sizes.
Okay.
Obviously, we don't expect to have that number of dogs there boarding overnight. Some of those kennels would be used for daycare, that when the dogs are tired, they have a place to go and relax. So we have to have enough room for boarding and the daycare dogs to have timeouts during the day.
Number of employees, customarily? Depends, obviously, how many dogs you have.
It's going to vary. We'll probably have on general site every day, you'll have our manager. Dave and I obviously plan to be there most days. We'll have dog handlers in each of the sites in the back. So you'll generally have 2 or 3 dog handlers, 1 or 2 groomers, depending on the need for grooming at the time, and probably another person up front to handle like the desk intake. So on a day, we'll normally have about 8 to 10 people, and of course that could be ramped up if we have the need and the numbers of dogs.
Is there anyone that's going to be there at night?
No.
Okay, so the dogs are not being, there's no human contact at night?
It's better for the dogs actually not to have human contact at night. Given the situation that we have, the dogs are going to be running around and playing. They need time, to have their time alone, just like they do at home. They will get put to bed, they will be fed, put to bed, and then it's better not to have people roaming around because any disturbance for the dogs is going to bother them. They won't have a good night's sleep. We will certainly be there first thing in the morning, and we also have all the alarms that if something should happen in the middle of the night, we can respond. I'm literally less than 5 minutes. My house is literally less than 5 minutes from the site.
You said you have cameras.
Yes.
Will anybody be monitoring them through the night?
Yes.
Okay.
one thing we talked about in getting ready was that the franchisor has very high environmental standards. Can you just talk about a couple of those things, your flooring, your HVAC system, cleaning materials and so on?
Sure. We intend to be the gold standard. Our kennels are made of vinyl and plastics, so they're very easily kept clean. They help keep the dogs healthy. They're very easy to clean, and the cleaning products that we use are from Spartan. It's the same company that provides the cleaning products to hospitals and children's daycare centers, and they are all environmentally friendly. They're biodegradable. Though you probably wouldn't want to drink them, I am told that you could drink them and they will not harm you, but they will break down all the urine and feces matter that we cannot pick up and make them safe. It would also kill any diseases that the dogs could potentially have. So if we had an outbreak, we have obviously protocols for that, that if one of the dogs was sick, to completely cleanse the entire facility to make sure that those things do not move on to other dogs that we are taking care of. The outdoor space is a high-level engineered area. It is not grass, it is a plastic material with drainage, particularly underneath. And that facility can be cleaned multiple times a day if it need be, but we would then, normally at the end of the day, it would be cleaned with one of the Spartan products that is sprayed. It's a foam. The walls are sprayed down, the turf is sprayed down, and there'll be little or no runoff from that because it will just penetrate down into the substrates underneath the artificial turf. The artificial turf also has a benefit that it does not promote ticks or fleas. So where you'd have a situation on a regular grass surface that you could have ticks and fleas getting on the dogs, this is almost unheard of in this sort of a product.
Is that artificial turf going to be put down on the existing blacktop, or is that existing blacktop coming up?
It can go down on the existing blacktop. What happens is there's the existing blacktop would penetrate, water will penetrate through the existing blacktop. It'd be slow. But on top of that is a drainage system that goes on top of that, and then the artificial turf is on above that.
Where does it drain to?
It drains right down into the soil eventually.
Well, but is it draining beyond the blacktop somewhere?
No, it would go right through the blacktop.
Oh.
It would eventually, like if you spray your blacktop at home and you get it wet and the blacktop goes down, obviously we could break the blacktop and make that drainage faster, but it's unnecessary from the system that we have.
There is a pretty high-end HVAC and ventilation system that deals with humidity levels and air turnover, is that correct?
Yes. All the dog spaces, the training areas, the dog daycare areas, and the boarding areas have high-end HVAC turnover systems that basically 100% of the air is completely cycled through to maintain good air quality in the site and keep odors down. Now again, that's in the rear of the store. We don't need those sorts of things up in the retail area, but anywhere the dogs are going to be staying for lengths of time, there's a high-end HVAC system.
You mentioned protocols. You're the franchisee. You're taking a franchise.
Correct.
Working with a franchisor. You've obviously researched them. I see a box over there. Those are some of the protocols. Can you just talk about that and the relationship and what attracted you to this franchise?
The Dog Stop, I have to actually give Dave the credit. He's actually the one who found the Dog Stop. They are a very new and up-and-coming franchise. They have approximately 35 sites currently around the country. And we'll be one of the ones by the end of the year, hopefully, that they'll have 50 or more. And there's plans to have 100 shortly after that. The people who founded the Dog Stop and their staff have combined hundreds of years of expertise in doing what we intend to do. So we're not reinventing the wheel. They have protocols for everything from if a hurricane hits, if the power goes out, if we have an outbreak from the dogs, payroll systems, soup to nuts on the system. So Dave and I are, walking into what we think is a premier franchisor, and we intend to be very successful here, and we have plans for 2 more after our site here in Long Hill.
You feel you're gonna get a good bit of support from that franchise?
They are an excellent, in fact, before Dave and I open, we will be going out to, they're based in Pittsburgh, we'll be going out to Pittsburgh for a solid week of training on opening up. And when we physically open here, the franchise will be sending their representatives to assist us in opening it, that make sure everything goes smooth.
We're looking for variance on that fence height. For some reason, your ordinance has a specific fence height, or dog runs, I think. But anyway, you're looking for 8 feet.
Correct.
6 feet is permitted. Why'd you like that extra 2 feet in, behind the building over there?
Again, we are relying on the dog stops experience, and obviously my own experience. Dogs can scale fences, especially chain link fences. We are not putting a chain link fence in. This is a vinyl paneled fence, and at 8 feet high, it is almost completely unheard of that a dog could scale that. There's nothing for them to grip on to scale a fence. So this is for safety. A large dog could actually jump a 6-foot fence. They cannot jump an 8-foot fence. And also, being vinyl, it is going to protect the dogs. There's nothing for them to get caught on. There's nothing for them to catch their nails on or injure themselves running into a chain link fence.
All right, you're gonna have your own garbage dumpster?
Yes.
Or whatever waste you may have. You're gonna have your own, what we call the Zamboni, that cleans your indoor floor.
Yes.
Like a hockey rink or something.
Yeah,
You're gonna get to drive that around?
Well, it's a walk behind, but
Okay.
it's a walk behind, but yeah, all the interior floor surfaces will be cleaned every day, again, for safety and for the health of the dogs.
Deliveries, there'll be box trucks on occasion.
We won't need many deliveries. Most of the deliveries are food products that come in, and again, our retail space, we do have them, but it's a very small number of items, so we won't have a tremendous amount of traffic coming in for deliveries.
And you have some protocols for snow days and emergencies.
Absolutely.
That you have to live right nearby, but if somebody couldn't get and pick up their dog, whatever, I guess they become an overnight tenant.
Right.
Potentially.
Right. And again, we don't plan to have anybody there overnight, but in the event that there's a situation where we think there would be an issue that the staff couldn't get there first thing in the morning, we will have the ability to, like a small pull-out bed or something that somebody could stay in the break room if it was absolutely necessary.
Obviously not planned for. Okay, Chairman, I think I've covered most of the basics. We have Ms. Lahaney's June 1st review letter. Acoustics, you're comfortable with the acoustics that are gonna be there? You expect any noise issues with your neighbors?
We shouldn't have any noise issues. Dogs don't tend to bark unless they are distracted. That's another reason why the fencing in the back is vinyl and not see-through. So somebody walking by the fencing in the backyard, the dog won't bark. And dogs that are playing together tend not to bark very much. Interior-wise, the bank on the right of us is a solid, full concrete wall. So there should be after we put our walls up, our finished walls up, there should be almost no noise transfer that way. On the left, the walls are a staggered stud. So because the studs don't go all the way through, when there is a tenant to our left, there should be very little, if any, noise transfer to the other tenant on the other side.
And we're not proposing any signage variances at this time, or conform with the town's ordinances, or come back if we need to?
there's no reason why we should need a sign variance. Our signage should be able to meet code, no problem.
Ms. Landy was asking about stormwater runoff, and you touch on that, you really use a spray foam, so there's no real liquid runoff that's going. It's just, the
No.
foam goes onto the astroturf.
And dries.
And essentially dries.
Yes.
And those chemicals there are non-toxic type chemicals, you touched on that also.
Well, everything we use is non-toxic and environmentally safe.
So you don't see any pollutants going even on the cabin in the back?
No, none at all.
So what happens to poopy, if the dog takes a poop outside, gets picked up by your staff? Just like-
No dog is anywhere unattended. So if the dog, obviously, you intend for the dogs to go outside, and that's one of the reasons that we do have the outdoor space. We don't want to ruin anybody's housebreaking by having the dogs go inside, that they have a place to relieve themselves outside and play outside. But our staff will immediately clean up any of that when it occurs.
Okay, Chairman, we covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's get a little feel for the operation.
Liz, do you have any questions?
Just a
Yes.
few questions. One thing that hadn't occurred to me before you mentioned it, but do you have a generator? Or what would happen if there was a prolonged power outage?
We do not have a generator, but we have contingency plans that if we see that there's this issue coming up, that there could be a power outage, we would bring a portable generator in.
Okay. And then how do you manage the dogs going out? Meaning, how many go out like at any one time? And, do they is it sort of very regimented, okay, this group goes out from 2 to 2:30?
It is. It's very important to manage the dog groups efficiently and with, obviously, the goal that what kind of dog it is. You don't want, the 5 or 6 or 7 pound Chihuahua playing with the 135-pound Newfoundland. So the small toy dogs have their own section. And even older dogs, you might have a large breed dog, but who's older in age. You don't necessarily want them playing with puppies because the puppy could injure the older dog. So we will manage the groups that we have and apportion them out. So you'd have groups of dogs going out to play together that are appropriate to play together. And we have a number of play areas. If you saw our layout, there's 3 play areas inside, and there'll be 2 or 3 play areas that we can set up outside. We also have, it's marked on our map as a VIP section. Sometimes you get a dog that doesn't play well with others. We'll take any kind of dog, but in a situation with that, the dog would then get individual playtime with one of our staff in a separate area. And hopefully over time, we would be able to socialize that dog that it would be able to enter a regular play section.
That's so funny, because that's sort of what happened to me in kindergarten. I was in that VIP area.
Do you need a variance for that?
They didn't call it the VIP area exactly, but then they socialized me over a couple of years, and here I am, Chairman.
So if you had 75 dogs maximum, right? You're saying you had 75 kennels, so does that mean that you can accommodate 75 dogs at one time?
As I said, technically speaking, we could board 75 dogs. We have 75 kennels. But again, we need space for daycare also.
Oh, okay.
So,
I see. So
Right.
so that's different. The 75 is different from the daycare.
right, so,
Okay.
the daycare dogs get kenneled as well. So your dog comes in the morning, and they romp around for several hours. They need downtime. They need to rest. They need to take a nap. So those dogs would then get moved into the boarding area and have one of the kennels to be able to just chill out, have a drink, possibly get fed if it's a puppy. You know, that they,
$500 max.
It's the VIP, yeah.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
And, well,
It's a high-end operation.
Yeah, and
They're
all
nice bedding.
all the dogs have their own bed when they're in there, and obviously after they're done with it, they would get cleaned before another dog would use it, but yes.
Well, I guess my question really is how many dogs would be on site maximum at any one time? How much, knowing that this might not happen, but how much could your franchise accommodate at any one given time for both boarding and daycare?
You'd probably be looking at somewhere between 70 and 80 dogs.
Okay, okay. And then how many dogs would be outside in the play area at any one time? Understanding that there are these different areas, but let's just say outside, how many?
At max, if you had 2 play groups outside, obviously each one of them manned with its own handler, you'd probably have 20 dogs outside at one time. And again, the dogs will rotate in and out. It's also going to depend on weather as well.
I was going to ask that. So is there any, like, a lot of dogs don't like to go out when it rains. So I'm just curious, do you have any covering over the, proposed covering over the outdoor area?
We can do that. We don't have a proposal for it right now, but we have those, like, have you ever seen the sail covers
Yeah.
for shade? We certainly have the ability to put one of those out.
I think those are my only questions at this time. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
So, I hadn't prepared a memo. I'd done a cursory review of your application when it first came in. Noted that there were no technical concerns relative to, the impervious coverage, anything else, and stormwater mitigation. However, just wanted to touch on the play area outside. The use of cleaning products for the urine and any waste, and those being environmentally friendly.
Yes.
You had noted. Do you know the approximate distance from the rear of the facility to any private storm drain that's in the parking lot?
I don't know.
Okay. Would you say it would not be immediately adjacent to the building? It would be to the far curb.
I'm sorry, I don't
So the play area is in the rear of the building.
Correct.
Right, and so behind that play area would be drive aisle, commercial drive aisle, and parking space.
Yes.
Right. So, and then curb, and then lawn.
Correct.
Okay. So that'd be our runoff distance potentially for when it rains and any waste that would be washed away over the asphalt.
There shouldn't be any dog waste as far as fecal matter washed away, because as I said, if a dog goes, the staff is going to immediately pick that up.
Okay. And then the cleaning product would help pick up anything else off of the AstroTurf, any remnants left behind.
It's not AstroTurf, but yes, you
Yeah.
get the idea, yes.
Yeah. Artificial turf.
It neutralizes anything that's on the turf and makes it safe.
Okay.
That, a dog's not going to get any contagions from that. And
it's an ecologically friendly cleaning product.
again, everything we use is from a company called Spartan. They provide things to hospitals, daycare, all those areas where you can't have something that would be toxic.
Is that a requirement of your franchisor, or is
Yes.
that, okay, all
Yes,
right.
it is.
So would you be comfortable then if it was a condition that you only use environmentally friendly cleaning products in the outdoor area?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we were only going to
So-
use environmentally friendly things
Throughout
on
the
the
building.
inside
Sure.
too. So, yeah.
Okay, so for the board's understanding, my concern is just for our overall
that
MS4
goes, yeah.
permit and stormwater runoff and constituents that might be, connecting to a storm system that discharges the Passaic River or any other water body.
Yeah.
Thank
Given the way the system works, it's almost unheard of that any of this would actually get into the storm source
Sure.
system. I mean, I guess it's possible you had a hurricane come through and things,
Sure.
a little bit can wait. But certainly, it's designed to dry and stay on there and basically dissolve, go away.
Understood.
Let's just say this, it's gonna be a lot better than what people do when they walk their dogs in their residential.
Much better. People don't clean up after the dogs, drives me crazy, but that's another.
Right into the storm, so.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all my only question.
I have a question about the wall that you're proposing to build, and my question is for the outside play space. Is the wall? I know you're proposing 8 feet, and there's good reason for that. And my question was, is this wall also going to extend below the ground to take into account dogs digging or burrowing and trying to get out from underneath the fence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The obviously the posts have to be down a minimum distance. I think they have to go down, obviously below the frost line for the supports.
Right.
But the fence itself goes below grade as well, so
Okay.
a dog can't get underneath. Right.
But it is gonna be blacktop, so it'd be kind of unlikely that the dog's gonna
It would be really
shoot
hard for
through
a
that.
dog. But you could have, I mean, technically speaking, this surface could be put down on dirt.
Yes,
Or
right,
gravel.
right.
Which a dog could dig through,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, but right now, it's still gonna be the blacktop. there.
Correct.
Okay. But you're gonna actually cut the blacktop and put the fence below it?
There'll be posts going into.
But the actual fence section will be right on the blacktop, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you're relying on the blacktop not being able to be dug through?
Right, well, it'll go down to the blacktop, and then the system will be above that.
Oh.
So they can't dig
Oh,
through
so
the
they-
artificial turf.
Right.
Okay, so the fence, as noted in your drawing, is gonna be about 2 inches above the blacktop? The fence section
The bottom
itself.
rail.
The bottom rail.
Right, but then again, the
The product.
drainage system and the product goes above that.
Okay.
And that's a non-diggable item, they can't dig.
Okay, all right.
That's what you meant by below grade when you said that.
Correct.
Yeah, below your grade.
Below our grade.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Not
That's
below-
what, that's
not
what got
below
me,
the blacktop.
that's what got me confused.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the posts go below the blacktop, because obviously they have to be.
Right,
They have to be
right.
secured, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, what's the lifespan of that product you're putting down in the run area, in the outside
fence?
area? No, the turf.
The turf, I believe, has a 10-year lifespan.
Okay, so that is something that is eventually going to be changed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It would be upgraded or updated as needed.
Okay.
That
Yes.
turf is
Jerry.
that turf is essentially like a spec for animals as opposed to for sport or any other type of artificial
Yes,
turf.
it's
It's meant
it's a
for recreation or home lawns, things like that.
It's specifically designed for pet use.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Jerry.
My question, I have a couple. First one is about leash, the use of leash for the dog. It's
Sure.
from the owners bringing the dogs in, escorting the dogs in.
Correct.
And your employees escorting the dogs from the facility to the play area. Will every dog be on the leash at all times?
When they're in the front of the store, yes. When they're in the rear, they don't need to be on leashes, obviously.
That'll be
Play-
contained? Is that how? it's
All,
gonna-
all the play areas, inside and out, are contained.
So it's continuous from the indoor to the outdoor play area?
And if you go from if the dog, let's say you had the group playing in the indoor space or the outdoor space, and then it was their time to be timed out, they would then be put on a leash and
Let in.
escorted to their kennel and locked up in their kennel where they can't be roaming around.
Okay, so that jog in the rear of the building from the picture, that's the only area where the dogs will ever be outside? That's a contained area, no leash required?
Correct.
Okay. The second thing is about the generator. Our planner asked a great question earlier, if you're gonna have a generator. And I just wanna know what the purpose is of the generator. What will the generator power? What will it provide power to? Will it power heating, air conditioning, critical circuits, or will it just be for lights?
If we needed it for an emergency purpose and we brought a generator in, it would do the HVAC system, because obviously we have to keep the dogs safe, the environment inside safe. It would power enough lighting that the place wouldn't be pitch black.
Right.
And I would probably want it to also cover the cameras, but the cameras may be down in that situation. They may not be able to broadcast because
Of the internet.
of the internet being
So
down.
that's a significant sized generator. We're not talking about portable generators just for lighting and that sort of thing. We're talking about.
You'd bring in a
major-
significant sized
Okay,
generator.
Okay, I just wanted to know what we were talking
Yeah.
about there. And that's not provided by Valley and Plainfield Associates or anything like that? They
No.
don't have backup power supply at all?
They do not, as far as I know.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah, we're not expecting to have to do that, but obviously we have contingencies for it just in case.
Sure.
So that would be a life safety matter, to keep the dogs warm or cold, or cool, depending on the weather.
Correct.
And
Yes.
okay.
So you would have that as part of your corporate contingency plan. If there's, you'd have a generator source already that could provide one if there was expected, terrible weather or something like that. You would tap that resource early.
Yes.
You don't have 75 dogs and it's, 110 degrees and there's no air conditioning, right? We're not doing that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Just so you know, they actually did have that situation in Pittsburgh with their 6 stores there. They had the power outage go out. Of course, it came back quickly, that they didn't have, but they have their old setup. And again, we're going with the dog stop because they have these contingency plans all in place for just about anything you can imagine.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome.
Gary,
I got, okay.
well, go ahead, Gary.
I think you said about 70, 75 dogs could be there at one time?
We'll have kennels for about approximately 75 dogs.
And I think you heard you say that the dogs don't bark. I mean, I have one dog, it barks.
Yes, dogs bark, but most people, if you've ever been to a shelter situation, and I've trained dogs at shelters, you walk into the caged area where the dogs can see you. As soon as you walk in, every dog is barking because they want your attention. Once the dogs are out and playing in the yards and you have them outside, they tend to just romp and play. Yes, they will make growly noises with each other, but they don't tend to bark at each other very much. And the kennels that we use, and though they do have windows and doors, most of the kennel, because they are, again, a vinyl material, the dog doesn't have a complete wide range of view. So they can be back there and settle down and go to sleep, and you'll very rarely have dogs barking. And again, that's one of the reasons why we're not going to have, in general, people staying there overnight, because the dogs will sense that somebody's there, and they're going to want that attention where they should be just sleeping.
How long is your lease there that you're signing?
We have a 10-year lease that we're signing with them, and we have, I believe, 3 contingencies for 5 years. So we intend to be there 15, 20, 25 years.
Okay, I hope so. And have you reviewed the noise ordinances in town with regards if they happen to be barking, and how we might deal with that if they are? Or if a complaint comes along? 'Cause
But you're talking mostly about the outside, right?
I guess anywhere where the barking.
Could be heard.
Possible barking might be heard or bothersome to either another tenant there that also wants to be there for 10 or 15 years, or I think it's, adjacent to the township building here. You have a library that's kind of probably an earshot.
Again, just on my experience, I'd be surprised that you would have a situation that was overtly long, where the dogs were barking and you could hear them here at town hall or the library.
Well, at night, they're not going to be outside,
They
right?
would not be outside. No, the only time they're going to be outside is during the day.
Okay. So most of the complaints of dog barking is usually 2 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock at night, when people are trying to sleep. But your dogs will be inside.
They will be inside, sleeping in their kennels, and more than likely not making a peep.
Any other questions?
Yes, just a couple. So when will the dogs be allowed out in this play area?
Out in the,
Wherever the outside area, when will that be occurring?
all through the day. The groups will be, we'll, like I
Beginning
said,
when
we will
and
manage
ending
the
when?
groups for age and size and which dogs can play together, and they will cycle through the play areas.
But, I mean, when does it start and when does it end? 7 a.m., 8, I mean,
Well,
what time?
We'll be checking all the dogs in at 7, so probably 7:30, 8 o'clock, the groups will be set up, and they will start going, either playing inside or outside, because they will do both, and through the day. But by 5 o'clock, which is really towards the end of the day, when we're gonna start feeding the dogs, there won't be any dogs outside at all. So probably like 7:30, 8 o'clock to about 4:30, 5 o'clock. There may be groups outside, but again, they will, cycle in and out. You wouldn't have all the dogs outside at once, and you wouldn't have all the dogs inside at once. They'd be in manageable groups.
What are you going to do with all the dog feces? Where does it go?
Into a dumpster, just like you clean up. I clean up for my dog. I have a garbage can that I clean my dog up with. So we will have a dumpster specifically for the cleanup of the dogs, and we have our cleanup bags again are environmentally friendly and biodegradable.
And why is this site particularly suited for this business?
We're gonna have our planner testify on how.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
With regards to the generator, you're saying that you have plans to pick one up if the power goes out. Anybody here remember Hurricane Sandy? Anybody here get a
I do.
generator during Hurricane Sandy? Didn't happen.
Well, again, if we had a situation where we knew a storm was coming, we would do it well in advance. We're not gonna sit there and go, oh, the power's out, we need a generator.
Right.
The power might be going out, we'll have contingency plans. We may not have it on site, but we will have it arranged with our supplier. And listen, we want that generator should our power go out. And we'll pay them, obviously, their rental for it. If we don't need it, we don't need it, we eat it. But we will have it well in advance, if it should be needed. And again, in a situation like Sandy where the power was, I mean, at my home, it was out for a week.
You had it
The
good.
business would probably close because we wouldn't be able to, you know, they would have, the animals would have to get relocated to their homes.
Sir, I was thinking that earlier when I was asking follow-up questions of the generator, and that's why I was saying this would be a contingency plan in advance. It sounds like you're going to have a resource dedicated to you should there be an event. That's what it
Yes.
sounds like to me. Not
Yes.
just like, there's a storm coming Saturday and today's Thursday and we need a generator, we're gonna start calling people.
Correct.
Okay, right? Then the other thing is, it sounds like the type of business you have, you don't have the luxury of just sending the dogs home because you might be boarding dogs and people may be out of the country or something, unable to get back, or unable to get someone here. You have to have that resource. It's not if, you must have that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But in general, like for daycare and things like that, you would shut down
you could-
daycare.
People can just go home, but there could be dogs that you're stuck with.
No, absolutely, and we do have contingency plans for that as well. And we intend to work with other kennels in the area, because you can have a situation where other kennels in the area may have lost power or have a situation where they can't keep the dogs. We will set up situations that if we're able to take dogs that they have and they can't care for them properly, we would take the dogs.
Sure.
So, and we would hope the other kennels in Morristown and in town and in Berkeley Heights, and we'll set up situation with them. We're not going to be in competition with them. We want to be partners with the other kennels in the area so that the dogs can be safe and well cared for.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any public wish to ask questions of this witness? Yes, ma'am. Come on up, identify yourself, state your name and address, and ask your question. This is a question period, not a comment.
Hi, Linda Parisi, 54 Plainfield. My question is, I understand the daycare, that's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., I believe you said, but what about the boarding? If they have to go out, when are they allowed out to relieve themselves?
The dogs would get their last relief just before the staff leaves. And depending on the number of dogs, the staff is going to be leaving, the general staff will probably be leaving between 7 and 8. And most dogs should be able to make it through the night until the staff gets back about 6:30 in the morning to then park them. The crate areas that they have are large enough that if a dog should have an accident, it's not like a crate like you have at home where they would then be rolling around in it, because dogs do not want to go where they sleep, and they will have their own bed. So there will be an area within the kennel that they could relieve themselves if they absolutely had to, but more than likely the dogs are going to be so tired from the day, they're going to sleep through the night.
And then what time do they go out in the morning?
As soon as the staff gets there.
So 6:30.
Staff will generally get there about 6:30 in the morning, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll close it to the public. The next witness?
Yes, Chairman, we are going to call Dennis Bachman, representative of the property owner, for some very brief testimony before we go to our plan.
We're going to take a 2-minute break. Our attorney has to confer with the other applicant.
Yeah, towards the end of the night,
Yeah,
just wanna see what they
one
wanna
second,
do.
yeah.
Chairman, just so you know, it's 2 questions from the
Yeah, I
property
understand,
owner, and then
but-
10 minutes max for our plan.
That's fine, but he,
One
let
minute.
him confer with.
Yeah.
Okay. Really? Oh, wow. Yeah.
this game? Do you think they're going to win the series?
You're probably
So
going
we're
to
gonna
honor him
find-
with the next game.
This is the final.
I don't have a, no, I'm a Devils fan, so the only horse I have in this game is Adam Henry. What? Would be Adam Henry. But I don't know.
I think I do
Yeah,
too.
that's why I kind of want to see Anthony. Maurice has been dancing for 35 years. I don't want to come, right? He deserves that.
Candyman.
And Adam Henry can be another next year. So David wins.
Just for the back?
Good. That cracks me up every time I see it.
Sorry.
Oh, it's,
Administrative thing.
that's it, yeah. It's fine.
The answer is?
Okay. Okay, and this witness is who?
We appreciate the juggling of the schedule. This is Dennis Backman, a representative of the owner.
Oh,
So
okay.
you understand you're still under oath from an hour ago.
I understand.
Okay? What's your affiliation with the property owner?
I'm a consultant, a real estate consultant, doing work for Valley and Plainfield Associates.
Okay, and what-
I'm pretty much a full-time basis.
There's obviously a bunch of vacancies. Why do you like this tenant?
The tenant is provides a service to the community. We've had vacant space in the center for quite a while. I think Pathmark went out in 2011. King's backfilled that space a couple of years later, but they only took 30,000 of the 50,000. So this space has, I think, been empty since about 2011. This dog daycare is kind of an up-and-coming kind of tenancy. It's going into more shopping centers. We're excited about the concept that Rob and Dave have put together in the Dog Stop franchise. And so we're looking forward, they'll take about 8,000 square feet out of the 50,000 that Pathmark used to occupy.
You think they're gonna help the other tenants, and shopping centers, and tenant mix issues, I guess?
Very much so, just bringing people in on a daily basis into the shopping center for the daycare. Again, the boarding provides another service at night, so yes, just helps integrate the shopping center and tenant mix.
Can you just talk very briefly, last question, about sort of trends in shopping centers to have some more service-oriented than only retail? We happen to have a zone that has a good variety of uses, but what are you seeing in that world?
We have national tenants in there now, the Home Goods and the TJ Maxx, Old Navy, so we have some of the national tenants. We have a couple of smaller service tenants. As I say, this is kind of an up-and-coming use. Shopping centers didn't previously have, say, dog daycare in them, didn't have health clubs or gyms in there. They didn't used to have urgent care centers in there. There's a dearth of larger tenants, in this case 50,000 square feet, to try to backfill that space. This is a good use for that, and we think a good mix, helps the mix of tenants in the shopping center.
Okay, Chairman, that concludes with this.
Okay. Any questions of this witness?
I have one. Have you discussed with your other tenants whether or not this is a plus or minus in their view?
did not discuss it with other tenants.
Have other tenants come forward to express any opinion about it?
No, not to me.
Okay.
Sometimes things get out word of mouth.
But you haven't heard
We
anything?
haven't gone,
right?
no,
Okay.
no.
Is there any way that the other tenants would have known about this potential tenant coming in?
Generally, no.
Okay, so they don't know, they've got leases in place and don't know that another tenant's gonna move in that has this use.
Correct, and oftentimes we kind of have a requirement to not talk about deals that we're doing with a tenant. Oftentimes, there's a confidentiality provision to our discussions.
So, these guys are taking about 8,000 square feet, and I think you said there's about 50,000 square feet there?
Correct, the Kings is about 30,000 square feet.
So with the other 48 or 42,000 square feet that will still be vacant, what kind of tenant do you think will want to move in?
We've had a couple of tenants that have had some interest. We have ongoing discussions with tenants.
Do you think another food store will move in next to the doggy daycare?
They wouldn't be unheard of. Do I think that they would? Perhaps not, but the supermarket space, the Kings, is about 30,000 square feet and would not be, that space is not immediately adjacent to this space.
Okay, to clarify where this space is in the building, it's closer to Valley or it's closer to the bank?
Closest to the bank.
You're not, I'm sorry, sir.
That's okay.
You're not expecting the tenants to be unhappy for any reason, are you? You wouldn't put them in there if
Not at all.
some sort of tenant uproar about this.
Correct.
Any other questions for this witness? Any questions from the public for this witness? Okay, hearing none. Any questions from our expert?
Just one quick question. Does the bank, by virtue of its use, have thicker walls than another tenant might have?
It does, and I believe that's a concrete wall on that side.
And then the
Yes.
other side is vacant?
Correct. We'd have to put up a demising wall for the 8,000 to separate it from the balance of the 20,000 that the Kings doesn't have, and that would be a sound attenuation construction that we would put in there.
Because I guess my point is, anybody who's moving in, potentially the dog daycare would be there first.
Correct.
So they would know.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, I'm going to call our planner.
Thank you.
Golden Spire.
Before you get started, we just have to go through your credentials.
Yeah,
Of
sure.
course. We have an exhibit, we'll mark it as 81.
Would you put that over to the right, facing that way or angled toward us? So that way the public could see it too if they want to?
There are a lot of people watching us tonight, Chairman.
You guys probably know the site very well, though. Is this on?
Yeah, you have to face it toward us, but angle it so that if the public wants to, they can. Yeah, just like that. Perfect.
So, I'm a planner here in New Jersey. I have my master's in city and regional planning from Rutgers. I'm nationally certified with the American Institute of Certified Planners. I'm also a licensed planner through the DCA here. I work for a land use firm out of Newark called Topology. I was retained by this applicant to verify that the application advances good planning principles and that the use variance can in fact be granted under the standards of established case law, which I'll go into.
Have you testified before other boards?
I have never Long Hill.
I know. I'm assuming never Long Hill, but I know other boards.
Like in this area, I've testified at Rockaway Borough, Morristown, Parsippany, and Dover. That seems to be kind of the closer ones to this area.
Okay, you're
I've been
qualified. Thank you.
Okay.
and Goldie, you've had a chance to take a look at the application documents and the site in light of the criteria of
I have.
use variance and the particular suitability standards, and can you give the board the benefit of your opinion about the D variance and then that very minor height variance of the 2 feet on the fence?
Sure. Really, my testimony, I'm just going to go very little into the existing conditions because I think we've already established that framework. I think this board is very familiar with the site. I think we might even technically be within the 200-foot list if I was to look at that, where we're standing right now. Just whatever is proposed, I'll highlight that real quick. But really, my crux of my testimony is going to be about that D variance and the Medici case, which this looks like a very sophisticated board. I've been listening to questions. I think this board has probably heard the Medici case, and so I'm going to explain how it applies here and why this site's particularly suitable, how we meet the positive negative criteria. And then I'll touch up on the fence C variance, which actually you gave great testimony for me. And that's just generally the conclusion. As you see, this is a reoccupancy of a space, minor site improvements on the outside, but we're not talking like a full-blown site plan. We're talking about an established commercial use here, an existing site.
Please go ahead.
So the property is specifically zoned, it's zoned BD Business District, but there's an overlay over it. I think the uses are generally the same. It kind of all comes back to the BD zone. The overlay is the planned shopping center. So what you have here is the Valley Mall Shopping Center. And what we're proposing is to reoccupy a portion of what is of many vacant spaces in this commercial retail store complex for what is largely a permitted use, where the aspect that we need use variance for is the overnight kennel park. But otherwise, retail is a permitted use and commercial, and this is really fitting in. It really is just that narrow part of the application about overnight daycare, which is, or overnight, I guess it's not daycare if it's overnight, overnight care. That aspect is what requires the relief of this board, and so that's really the large focus of this board, as well as the fence, which is a very minor C variance. So in New Jersey, we have the Medici court case, which the courts have held that zoning boards can deviate from their zoning ordinances, but there needs to be special reasons to adjudicate those types of cases, and that's really guided in this Medici case. And really what that case speaks to is that there needs to be, these special reasons really need to cover a public benefit, and that it shows that this site is particular for the use that we're asking for. So in this case, why is this site particular for an overnight kennel aspect? And that under the municipal land use law that we can prove that we qualify for that special reason. We also need to, under the positive, show that the site is particularly suitable, as well as that we're consistent with your master plan, consistent with the intent of the zoning otherwise, and that we're not, under the negative criteria, that we're not causing a harm to the public welfare or harming the intent of what Long Hill's master plan and zoning intent to kind of protect against such a, you know, the use is just not permitted. It's not specifically prohibited, but it's not permitted. So under the way the zoning works, it typically gets thought of as prohibited. So to talk about kind of the site in particular, and there's this exhibit here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's three.
This way a little bit.
And I guess you could just mark it like planner's exhibit.
We already marked it. Applicant 1.
I can explain it. It's really just
Good,
three
thank you. That's good.
components.
That's good.
And I think the bottom part of it, you've already seen in your application. It's the floor plan and, you know, the, I guess we'll call it the architectural floor plan. Really, the top left is just to orient you of the site. We are this big L-shaped shopping center. You know, Municipal Hall is actually over here, but Valley Road is a long kind of commercial corridor I'm sure we're all familiar with. And what's on the top right, I'll speak to momentarily later, but it's a snapshot from your master plan, actually. So this site is a 24-acre site. It's a very large, when I say established, I mean this thing has been here for decades. I don't have the exact year, but this site didn't just come out of nowhere. It's been a long-standing commercial land use structure here. You've heard from our, I guess it's the representative, about the vacancy issue. I can even quote your own planner from her report. She talks about the vacancies as well in this site. So there's really a need about reoccupancy is what we're kind of coming here tonight. And why that ties back to site suitability is that this site not only has the space for the capacity of this, it's a large site and it's well buffered from other adjacent sites that might be impacted by any kind of overnight kennel, which would largely be like your residences, which I think like Morristown Road might be the closest residential properties, which is almost something like 750 feet when I measured it out. But what's unique about this site is because of that L-shaped commercial lot and the way the rear interacts, like I've seen these types of doggy daycares where it's very visible the improvements that you're adding, because you do often have to have these outdoor, I know you said it's not an AstroTurf, but a doggy turf. And you do need to have these fences and these outdoor components that goes and it accompanies as an accessory use. And from applications I've reviewed before, it's usually visible and it's part of a site plan that's a little more intrusive and you can see it. Here, I don't even know if your shoppers will know it's there. It's really designed well to be in the rear, in the back, unseen. So really what your shoppers are seeing is just storefront that's now occupied with nice signage and people and activating it and using it again. So it really kind of reactivates a dead space. So that really brings us into why this carries out the purposes of zoning, namely the purposes of the municipal land use law. It's like literally the second chapter, what is the purposes of zoning? And you don't want to ever grant a variance unless you're you're advancing the purposes of zoning or you're not blatantly, violating them. And I think we're advancing purpose A, which is just generally promoting public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, just by reoccupying a space that's a dead space, it's an unactivated space, getting, people, maybe not even just in Long Hill, but around Long Hill, coming to the space to engage and use it, and maybe they'll walk down the street and go to TJ Maxx and buy some clothes while they're at it. So you're also just activating other retail spaces while you're there. It's an appropriate space for the use, which goes to purpose G of zoning, which is all about we talk about the reoccupancy, and I'll get a little more in depth when I talk about the master plan here. But it's meeting a need of what we see since COVID. A lot of people went out and bought dogs, and now they're like, where do I put my dogs when I have to go on vacation? It is a service that's needed. So it serves a residential, it's a commercial use that also serves even your residential uses, people that have dogs that need a place to be boarded. And then also to purpose M, which is just about more efficient use of land. So again, about activating it and making it a service for your residents as well as workers being able to do their jobs. Maybe I need to drop off my dog or something. So this brings us kind of to the next test with the Mtg case, which is this enhanced quality of proof about reconciling. Okay, so we're not a permitted use in the zoning code. How do you reconcile why this use, while it's not being listed in the zoning ordinance, how do you reconcile that under Mtg? And, use variances are a case-by-case basis. That's why we're here. We're showing special reasons and why this is appropriate. And what you have is a zone that's actually really high in intensity, this PSO zone. I mean, it goes as high as like movie theaters can go here. So I know that movie theaters can cause a lot of noise when people get out and they're dumping their popcorn and they're done, going back to their cars late at night or something. You've heard our operators talk about the high level quality of operations that happens with these kennels, which are probably going to be subject. I know you have a kennels ordinance, and I know that there's state regulations. Like, you don't just have a use variance on something that, okay, it just kind of blows in the wind and who has oversight over this. You have a use variance that's probably going to be regulated on licensing and sanitary compliance with your health codes and things like that. So a couple safeguards in place, but a very intensive zone. So we're not going in a residential zone. We're not going near a residential zone. So you would want to see something like this, preferably in a commercial zone. So, and then again, I think it was testified to already tonight, and there's this footnote. I know that Rick likes to talk about footnote 11 of Medici, about these like uncontemplated uses or new uses really. And like doggy daycare has evolved. In fact, I hardly see doggy daycare without a kennel aspect. I represent Rockaway Borough, and I know we had I think an application where there was a kennel there, and I know my firm, we've represented somebody else that years ago with a kennel. Like it's almost accessory in a way to each other. It's common to see the two, is what I'm saying. Doggy daycare with doggy kennels. So doggy daycare could essentially have been a permitted use here. So I think that what at the bottom line is that with this zone and with these types of uses, we're well with reconciling with the Medici standard there, and that these types of uses are evolving, and that these are new uses kind of evolving with the whole doggy daycare model in general. So really just the second prong of the Medici test goes to that negative criteria, because you don't want to grant any use variance with a substantial, you want to ensure there's no substantial impact to the public good. So you've heard tonight testimony from the applicant about how noise and odor and waste removal will be taken care of in a good waste management plan, and noise with a parting wall made of cement with its adjacent user, and then, you know, any next tenant coming to the other side will know what's there. But again, like the noise is going to be largely contained within the building. There's no residential impact. It would be contained within the site. And the odor and the cleanliness is also, it will be, as testified, maintained by the operator, who has ample experience in this as well. But otherwise, there's no real site disturbance to this. There's no issues with causing parking variances because we're changing this types of use. So really, we're really looking kind of at the use with like an ancillary, maybe fence C variance. But you know, when I look at use variances, I tend to see how like all the C variances stack up too, and does that help or hurt your suitability case? And we really don't have a lot of, you know, bulk variances to accompany this use variance, in that it really is just standalone. So then that just kind of gets to the last part, which is, you know, ensuring that there's no impairment to or violation in the intent of the purpose of your zone plan and your master plan and your zoning ordinance. And I think it was spoken to a little bit tonight, but you know, retail needs have evolved over the decades with online shopping and with requirements of space, and like we're seeing large spaces being subdivided into smaller spaces, because other than probably a big grocery store, what is going to go into that space? You've heard it's become a Pathmark to a King's, and now it's vacant. It seems like, you know, the type of retail that's surviving is sort of the retail that requires like in-person interaction with you know, what we used to see, where it can be replaced by, you know, purchasing things online. You know, it's impacting retail, and I think it might be happening to what's happening at this shopping center, and it's causing some of these vacant storefronts to exist, not probably just at this site, but some of the other shopping centers. And it probably detracts from the vibrancy of the town that we're looking for. And this all makes sense because when I turn to your master plan, you know, it speaks about the downtown Long Hill, specifically Valley Road, and includes surveys and questionnaires that your own residents of Long Hill filled out. And some of these questions were questions like, what is the most important thing in considering any kind of development in this Valley Road business district? And the number one answer was attracting desirable retail tenants. There was another question asked in this survey within the master plan about like what keeps you from patronizing the shops and services of the Valley Road business district? And the number one response to that was a lack of business that would appeal to that person. So this is a new type of use that expands business that could appeal to more people and more users. And when you go to the zoning ordinance itself of the PSO, there's always like that intent section. And what the intent section of the PSO, and I'll read it, it says the goals of the PSO are to ensure that future development in this area is oriented to the shopping, service, and other needs of the township and area residents. So to me, the way I'm interpreting that is that the use variance, you know, it serves that retail needs and it fits what is a demand of today. I'm seeing more and more, you know, throughout New Jersey, the need of this type of use. And, you know, placing it here, I'm not saying it's going to be the catalyst use that might stop the vacancies, but, you know, you might have users using this and then word gets around, you might, once you start filling up some spaces, other spaces start filling out. And that would catalyze potentially outside of this site, and kind of fit those, reactivate those vacancies around Long Hill. And that's really the summary of the D variance. The other variance relief we need is the fence.
We have just the benefits.
Yeah.
Outweighing the burden.
And I would say that just falls straight up under C2. It's a benefits case. I mean, it's nice to have an aesthetic fence rather than a chain link fence. So if you're going to have an 8-foot one, it's nicer quality. And really, negative impact of going 8 feet than 6 feet is, let's say you're in a residential neighborhood, it's a bunch of 6 feet fences, and this one person decides to do 8. It's out of character. You don't have that situation here. This is in the rear. Again, it's for safety for the dogs. It's not a fence compared to other 6-foot fences, and this is going to be the one that stands out. It's a very unique nuance, I think, to this situation.
Thank you for your testimony.
Yep.
Any questions from the board?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. I understood your testimony to be that doggy daycare would be a permitted use. The wrinkle here is the overnight requirement, expectation. But in looking at the document from our planner, it says that, at least I understand it to say, that the following are not permitted uses: kennels, pet shops, dog pounds. So it sounds like it's a lot broader to me. If that's true, then what do you think about, I mean, what's your view? If it's so restrictive,
So
those uses are not permitted.
So I'm just reviewing the permitted primary uses. It talks about retail trade, retail services. I don't have the definitions right in front of me.
It's on,
Carry over.
it's on page 3, by the way, of the paper.
You're talking about our report?
Or, yes.
Okay.
Can I actually just step in? All right. So what I'd like to say is, when this use came before us, we were trying to figure out, is it a permitted use? And so we look at what they were going to be providing. So certainly retail, absolutely, it's permitted, right?
So they're selling of their product.
There's a retail portion that was clearly permitted, right? Then there was the grooming portion. So that it sort of got into the, well, you know, is that a retail service? Meaning, you know, like the way somebody could go get their nails done, you know, is a dog going to get its hair cut a retail service? And we thought, you know, probably, yes, that you know, that it's a little bit of a finer line because dogs are different from people, but that would perhaps be a permitted use. What did not seem to be permitted was the boarding kind of put it into a different level, because while you may even the dog daycare could potentially have pushed it into a use variance because it's not a permitted use. The boarding was what, that's overnight, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week potentially. And so we thought, well, that is clearly not permitted. And so that's really why they're here before this board for the D1. So, yeah, so anyway, if that makes it clearer, yeah.
So any use, I kind of remember this from being created, any use that's not explicitly designated as permitted is automatically prohibited.
Correct.
Is this on any list of prohibited uses?
It's not explicitly prohibited use, by omission, as you say. By omission from the permitted uses, it's not permitted.
But it's not namely prohibited.
But it's not one of those special list of, these, we
Retail.
really don't want these things.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
I was thinking myself, I just wanted to be clear on that.
Right. So I think the one thing I would add, that I'm not sure the planner said, is that there's explicit recommendations in the land use element, which, was adopted less than 6 months ago, to expand the permitted uses in the downtown areas, because to make sure they're up to date, to make sure that they do encapsulate some uses that are newer. I'm not saying that this would then become a permitted use. I can't say that it would, because it could be that you want to keep something that is a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week operation. You don't want to permit that as of right, so that, the boards can take a careful look at it. But I do want to say that that is an effort, I think, coming out of the master plan to allow for broaden the permitted uses, so that, Long Hill and the vacancies, particularly at Valley Mall, but all throughout the township would, there would be,
Options.
it would be more, yes, it would be more attractive to potential users because there would be more permitted uses.
Liz, does it matter that the actual people in the building won't be there before 6:30 and they'll be gone by 8 o'clock at night? Just the dogs will be inside?
I think that's, if that makes, that I don't have any uncomfort or discomfort as a planner. That may be something that you have an issue with. If it's permitted, meaning not under the zoning, but permitted like by the licensing powers that be, then that's, so be it. If that is, but if it's something that the board is uncomfortable with, that perhaps is something you could request of the applicant.
Thank you.
One
Yeah,
more,
go ahead.
which I asked earlier. Why is this site particularly suited for this business?
Sure. So I did cover that, but I'm happy to go over it again.
I'm sorry if I missed it.
It's okay.
You covered a
So
lot.
there's a lot of bullet points, but if I was to hone in on this, it's a large 24-acre site with an established shopping center. So part of suitability is, I also like to look at like where you would not want it and where would this be a nuisance, and clearly nuisances in residential type neighborhoods probably. This is well buffered from any kind of residential component nearby of at least 750 feet. And then this shopping center in particular really lends itself for like a reoccupancy opportunity here. My testimony was, I was talking about some other applications I've reviewed in this kind of business, and you don't really get one of these dog boarding and daycares without some sort of site plan component with, we have to take our dogs outside, we need fencing, and that usually always becomes very visible. I'm not saying that would not make it, won't make it not bad, but what gives this site something unique and suitable is that it's all in the back where no one's gonna see, not even from Valley Road, just it's close to that bank. I tried to, peek when I was driving by and what could I see from Valley Road? You're not gonna even know that, you're gonna have to just know that this is here to know it's here.
Would you say that this is gonna appear just like a retail facility?
Right.
It's gonna be retail in front, so
Yeah.
we have a shopping center, it's gonna have the retail component, right? So it makes it really look just like
It blends
retail.
well.
Right, it blends perfectly, actually, because what's facing the public is what exactly permitted by the ordinance. Doesn't that go to the suitability of the site?
It
That-
does.
The front part of the store is retail.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, did you take a look at the greater area behind the shopping center?
So are you talking about,
Well,
I have that.
is that protected open space that's undevelopable?
Well, it's the town hall, right?
No, beyond,
Is
but
it like on the
behind the
Rossi,
shopping
you
center,
mean?
going down to the Passaic River, it's.
Sounds like you know the answer.
Yes, yes. So would you agree with that?
So
Nobody's building a house.
Nobody's gonna build a house there, nobody's
if
gonna
I
build
know that
anything. No
under the
one's-
We'll
Rossi,
agree to that proposition.
Yeah, yes, and.
being on the Rossi, it would mean that you wouldn't have development just appear there.
It's also very wet, so it's never gonna be developed. And then across the street, you also have a similar situation, I believe. You can't see on your, but you do.
Thank you.
Mr. Flatley, have we answered it? The question?
Yes, she has. Thank you very much, yes.
We did our best, right? We're really presenting as you got an existing center there. This is going into my argument, my closing. I hope you'll give me one.
Before you do that, is anyone else testifying?
No, we're done.
Okay, just making sure, because we're running a little close on time here.
I got a quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, ask it.
Basically, you testified that, and we heard that you keep the place very clean, your place. There are gonna be, 70 dog owners, or 60 or 50 dog owners bringing their dogs into your place. How can we encourage them to keep our valley mall clean as well? I mean, I know you're gonna keep your site clean, the one that you're leasing, but we've got a lot of other public that uses the parking lot and the sidewalks leading to the other stores. Is there anything that you can?
Well, we will have cleanup equipment available to the public as well, and we intend to be very active with the public as far as anything going on around town, and to help educate people how properly to take care of their dogs. It's one of our retail, like I said, with our retail, we want to help solve problems that people have. But also, somebody adopts a dog, they don't necessarily know how to train the dog. They don't know all the nuances for taking care of a dog. And we want to be out in the public and be able to educate the public on how to properly take care of their dogs. It'll be one of our things that we do with the public.
So people bringing their dogs to stay at your place or for daycare will be instructed by you as to clean up after their dogs as they're coming in and out. That's where I'm going.
We certainly will encourage our clientele to do that. But if we saw that somebody didn't clean up, we would then.
Oh, that's great.
That's certainly a condition of approval. I'm not sure how you enforce it, but we're gonna not wanna have dog poop outside there.
Well,
Premises.
I'm assuming that near the front doors, there's probably going to be a trash receptacle with bags. I usually see those out like at veterinary offices, or it's usually at the front door. There's, if you're going in or it's just at the sidewalk, there's usually a receptacle
Yes.
with bags that dispense, and I'm
Yes.
assuming you'd make that available to your clients.
We would certainly, something similar to that. Maybe not exactly that, but
Okay.
yes, we would make something similar to that available.
Okay.
We also have a pet waste ordinance, which
Yeah.
is from the DEP model ordinance for water quality.
Yeah.
And so that can be enforced onto the shopping center
Yeah.
property. So any
Well,
any
between
particular
tenant-
violations that are
Between
seen
landlord
can
and
be,
tenant, I would assume the landlord would make sure the tenant doesn't.
but also the patron.
Yeah, right.
Can be enforced
you would want to
through the zone-
encourage
through the
or have
code.
signs, please do not have your dog, go to the bathroom between your car and our building or something.
Well, sometimes you can't stop your dog. from
That's
going,
true. Or
but
clean up if it does.
We would certainly encourage our clientele to clean up, and as I said, if we saw that something hadn't been cleaned up, we would.
We gotta take a vote here, guys, because we're gonna be on to 10:30. Do I hear a motion to extend for another 10 minutes?
So moved. At least for this application.
Second for this application? All in favor? Aye. Okay, good, another 10 minutes. So, is there any more questions for their planner?
I got a few, Mr. Chairman, if you
Go
don't
ahead.
mind me interjecting. Just to close the loop on that, so I think I'm taking this as a stipulation, you guys would comply with the dog waste ordinance?
Absolutely.
Okay. Similar note, I'm going to refer to Liz's memo here. I noticed she flagged a couple of like nuisance-related regulations in her ordinance. Section 144.4, which covers wastes, I think that's the dog waste ordinance. 144.6, which covers noise, and then 144.11, which covers toxic chemicals. You guys would comply with all those as conditions of approval?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Covered the signage already. I'm going to make myself look stupid here, but I just want to make sure we're crossing all the Ts and dotting all the Is. I noticed in Liz's memo on page 4, and again, this is the one dated June 1st, 2024. I don't know why I had to go look at the year. There were a couple non-conforming conditions, existing non-conforming conditions. I just want to make sure they don't need any relief for that.
No, they're all related to the mall,
Okay.
so no.
Okay, and the other one was the fencing for dog run areas. There was a footnote here. Fencing for dog run areas is required to be provided in rear yard areas only, whereas the proposed fencing is to be located in the side yard of the subject site. So do they need another variance for that, or is that?
Maybe technically. I
Okay.
think, that's meant for somebody's home. In this instance, it is in the rear of the potential
Right.
establishment.
It might be the side for the street, but it's in the rear of the
Right.
building.
Okay,
You
so it's
know,
not needed. Okay.
I mean, perhaps technically, yes.
Okay, and you guys would apply your C2 argument to that item of variance relief as well?
To the
Okay,
extent it's necessary.
to the extent necessary. Just making sure, like I said.
Well, better to have it than not.
Of course.
Right, okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, that's just what I was gonna do. Any questions from the public for this witness? Yes, ma'am, come on up. You have to come up to the mic, because it's not on the record unless you're on the mic. Yeah, question for the planner, right?
Or whoever
Well,
could
that's right, you
answer
just
it.
ask the questions, we're at the
Where
end.
Pathmark was.
Yeah, go ahead.
So like where King's was,
Right.
Yeah, but not, there was another area next to King's.
but
To
on
the
that
right.
same side.
To the
And so
right
then
of
it's gonna be behind there, so not like on the home goods side,
No.
it's on this side. Okay, and one other question, and I don't know who can answer it. So it's my understanding the noise ordinance in town is 7 AM. So would that include dogs barking if they go out? So if they're out at 6:30, is that part of a noise ordinance?
Well, assuming if they bark and disturb somebody, yes. If they bark and don't disturb anybody, yeah, it's all.
Right, no, I understand that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we have one other lady coming up.
This,
Oh, you gotta come to the mic, state your name and address,
Well,
and ask the question.
I've already been sworn in,
it's a
but
different,
Pam-
Different application.
Pamela
different case.
Ogens, Millington,
Well, for this case, what is your name?
Pamela Ogens, Millington,
Okay, and what is your question?
fire sprinkler system.
I'd assume that there's sprinklers in the mall, right?
Rob, do you know?
Yes, there is.
Okay, yes, there are.
And I just want to say, I think this is very much a need for the community. As a dog owner,
Yeah, that's fine.
I take my dog to.
Okay, that's fine, we're at the end anyway, so go ahead. I'm gonna combine the questions and the comments, because we're at the end
I'm
of
going to
this.
ask you to please come back up later and say what you were going to say under oath.
No, that's all right. Any comments from the public? You already, you swore her in anyway, so. Okay, well, okay. Would you like to close
Chairman, I think we have
quickly?
a great use. The shopping center has challenges. You all know that shopping centers have to evolve.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dogs out there, and there has to be some place to bring your dogs for day boarding when you go to work and overnight when you go on vacation. I think we have a great location. There's minimal construction, only in the back. And to address Mr. Flatley's concern, it's gonna look like retail. It's the
From the
perfect
front,
spot for
from the
it.
front of the building.
Exactly. There will be people walking dogs in and out, but it's gonna look retail, so that makes this really suitable, and no new construction. Gotta have it someplace. You're not gonna want it in a residential zone. You got an old shopping center that needs some help, and I think you got a great operator here. You got some real pros, who can make a nice addition to help the shopping center, as Gold said. Maybe not transform it, but one by one. We got to get some strong tenants in there, and they got the backing of what looks to be a great franchise. So I strongly encourage the board. I certainly think we've put on enough evidence where you could vote affirmatively.
Thank you.
On this. We do need the 5 votes here.
Yes. Would you like to sum up?
Sure. Public comment, if there is any?
Are there any comments from the public?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, close it to the public.
Okay, all right, Mr. Chairman, applicant here is seeking minor site plan approval. Minor site plan approval, a D1 use variance to permit, to be specific about it, the proposed animal daycare, grooming, and overnight animal boarding uses, which are not permitted in the PSO district or the BD zone, which is the applicable zone here. They're also seeking a bulk variance for a fence height of 8 feet, where the maximum permitted fence height here is 6 feet. We'll also, I guess we'll throw in that additional variance regarding the location of the dog run area. It's only supposed to be provided in the rear yard, and to the extent that's needed, that's part of this application as well. As far as conditions go, the applicant agreed to complying with all of the nuisance-related requirements of the ordinance. Those are sections 144.4, .6, and .11 of the ordinance. Any signage installed would comply with the ordinance's requirements for signage. There are a few other conditions, including applicant will only use environmentally safe chemicals in the outdoor play area. Bear with me. Yeah. The applicant will pick up any animal waste created by its clientele if clients do not do so. That's in the front portion. And again, that only applies to your clientele. Obviously, if it's not somebody's, coming to your business, you don't have to pick up their poop. Comply with the dog waste ordinance. I'm not sure if that was already subsumed within the previous ordinance citation I listed, but that was that one. And that's it. So yeah, five votes to approve.
Okay. Randall, would you like to start?
Yes, it was a great presentation, and for brevity, I won't go on about why, but yeah, I vote yes, so thank you.
Gary?
I think you guys are going to be welcomed in our community, so I'll be voting accordingly.
Okay. Meredith?
Well, I really appreciated, how detail-oriented you were with your plans and, what you plan to do to accommodate the public and answering our questions, our concerns. And I think it's something that would greatly be appreciated here, especially in the Valley Mall.
Jerry?
I concur with what my fellow board members have said. I think you've done a great job communicating your excellent qualifications to run such a facility. I think the community will really enjoy having this here. I think that it meets the positive criteria and the negative criteria. It is definitely a particularly well-suited site. It's not near any residential use. It's well buffered, as your planner said. It's already in a large existing commercial use. It fills a vacancy in that facility that could otherwise possibly or potentially be filled with something worse. People think this is negative. I don't see it that way, but if somebody doesn't like this, something much worse could wind up there. The outdoor play area is in the back of the facility, which is where we see tractor trailers making deliveries and, garbage trucks taking out dumpsters. So I don't think anybody really cares too much what goes on there. The only neighbor that faces that part of that building is the town hall, and there is a strip of trees and shrubs that go between them, and, that's maintained. I don't see anything other that it doesn't do anything to anything to the detriment of our zone plan or our ordinance or anything like that. I think we're all good. I think this is, and it's not an explicitly prohibited use, as we talked with our own planner about. It's not necessarily permitted, but it's definitely something that I'm in favor of.
Tom? Thought.
Yes, so as far as the feces, I guess that's really an issue for the Board of Health, so pass over that. As far as the dog barking, I have a dog I'm going to bring to your kennel as soon as you open, see what happens. As far as it certainly is. As far as the description of the retail versus the dogs in the back, I think you've answered my question about the adequacy of the site, so I vote in favor.
Tom?
Thank you for a good presentation. Appreciate your time and effort into this. This is a necessary business in Long Hill, for all the reasons why you've already put before us. Thank you for using the empty space. You've defeated my cons. I'm not worried about the sound or the litter anymore. It looks like you're going to get a yes vote, so I'll be first to welcome you to Long Hill. Thank you.
I concur with the opinion of all my fellow board members. I think you did an excellent job presenting it to us. You've answered our questions. You've allayed our fears about things that we might have had concerns with. So I would also be a yes vote. Would you like to state what would you like to put forth the? You already did that.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move
this?
that.
Okay,
I'll
second?
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Aronio?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Grosskopf?
Yes.
Mr. Giannakis?
Yes.
Mr. Flatley?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Chairman Grech?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your time, we
Thank you.
appreciate it. I thank the other applicant waiting here as well. Hopefully we can change them up.
Yeah.
Definitely
Best of luck.
That'll be his fault.
Congratulations. I'm rooting for them. Great job tonight.
You're rooting for who?
Alrighty.
Wow. Because
Jessica's here.
Yeah, Jessica's
Oh,
here.
wow, she came back.
I'll be able, yeah, and I realized
You never left.
No, I didn't. My kids.
whenever there's a decision game like that,
Put my
elimination,
hands on the floor. And you're,
I'll let my daughter stay up.
she's up now watching.
Probably not about to find out one.
No.
Yeah, would you get his name?
So if they come back and win before I get home.
I know. It's just, I'm such a character.
Right now I got a streak going of like,
I'm sorry.
probably, with the way Colt drinking a bottle for the first one she disappeared. And then 3, 4, 5, 6. And one was the lawyer. Like I have pictures of it next to the TV.
That's secure.
Look at this. What's on the agenda this month?
Yes, sir.
I don't. Who reviewed this? Did even get that? Or something?
I'm like, but I'm always waiting for something to bother me. There's just letters.
Oh, they're huge. There might be some things that could
okay, go for it.
If they what?
If they got still offered for death, you could carry it application on addition. There might be a couple that could make it. I don't think right now this thing can't be.
How's the coffee?
You got some, yeah. That's right. Thanks, Rick.
These are different breeds.
I know.
I only have to extend the meeting.
How much longer do you think this will be? Not that I'm pressuring you on the time.
Bill's been instructed to do the short version, so.
Why don't you start with 45 minutes?
45, yes, okay. I was thinking a half, but you think you're right.
Yeah, so it's quarter to 11 right now, let's start with 45.
Thank you. Get him to, what, 11:30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like
See what we
actually.
need to do there. Okay, are we back? Okay.
I'm ready to go. Yeah.
We're back.
That's ready?
Alrighty.
Can I get a motion to extend the meeting to 11:30?
So move.
11:30?
Go for it.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
We're gonna try to make it soon. I was told 11.
That's what, that was the initial understanding, I
That's what
guess.
we hoped for.
Yeah.
We'll do our best. But we do appreciate you staying very much.
I think we still need the motion.
Can I get a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Second. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Hollows, you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, go.
Is Mr. Hollis qualified as a professional engineer?
He's been here, he's been here 1,000 times, I think so.
For the record, William Hollows, Murphy and Hollows Associates, 192 Central Avenue, Sterling.
And I understand you have exhibits, Mr. Hollows. Could you please identify those and date them, please?
I thought they might have used this one, but I guess not.
We did not yet.
This sheet 2 of 4, it's the existing conditions drawing, revision date of
A1.
April 30th, 2024. This would be A1 or?
Want to take them all as a
A1,
want to
A1.
take them all as a package?
It's colorized sheet 2 of 2.
Yes, it is.
Great.
All of them.
2 of 4.
2 of
Two
4.
of
Or,
four.
sorry, 2 of 4. My apologies.
Is it colorized? I can't see it.
Yes.
Yes. And we might as well mark the next one.
Right.
Yep.
It's a colorized drawing of sheet 3 of 4. This is the proposed conditions.
Also April 30th, 2024.
Yes.
Great.
Oh, just to clarify too, for the, what's the date on these current plans? The last set that was submitted was April,
April 30th, 2024?
okay. I believe that's what's on the website. That's just what I'm.
It is.
The existing conditions, you probably talked about this before I got here, but we're on the south side of Long Hill Road, right next to the Millington Volunteer Fire Company. And presently, there is a small building on that site. And to the rear of that building is a gravel parking lot with a driveway that goes between the building and the Volunteer Fire Company. And presently, we believe there were 3 parking stalls that pulled in directly to the front of the building. The proposed conditions. You've heard the architect speak and the owner speak. They're proposing an addition to the existing building with and that would be the lighter tan. The darker tan is the existing structure. And then also a pole barn garage to the back of the building. We had gotten a letter from Morris County, and they wanted to eliminate the parking on Long Hill Road. They wanted two-way traffic to go, in and out, going to the back of the park or the building, or the parking area behind the building. I called up the planner for Morris County, spoke to him and said, well, the owner had bought this property with the understanding that there were 3 parking stalls on Long Hill Road. And similar to what you've got just to the west of us, and then you've got the Cargs building there, and then you've got the auto repair has, well, they pull into the front of the garage at their location. And then across the street of Millington, you've got some, or well, now it's Carney Bank, you've got some parallel parking stalls. So he said to me, I'll go to the site and I'll take a look at it, and then we can discuss. And I gave him a couple of concept plans of what I thought we could do, and he got back to me. If you spoke with him, he actually went to the site, and he spoke with the engineering department of Morris County, and they would allow us to have an in and out driveway since it's such a small parking area. And they would allow 1 parallel parking stall in front of the building.
When you say in and out, you mean 1 lane as opposed
1 lane for both ingress and egress. And we need 8 parking stalls. We have the parallel parking stall in the front. We've got 4 along the side of the driveway. We have 1 between the 2 buildings, and then we have 2 in the garage for the new structure, not the pole barn, but the new multi-use building for the apartment and for the business there. Morris County came back and said that they basically want a stop sign and a stop line, which is not a problem to add to the drawing. And they want me to push this parallel parking stall. Right now it's right up against the building. They want me to push that out further from the building so that we've got a walkway that's contiguous to the Volunteer Fire Company, and then also could be accessed to the Cargs building to the west.
But it'll still be, the parking space will still be off of the street. It'll just allow pedestrian traffic between the space and the building.
Correct. And since we've made this drawing, the applicant would like to put 2 parking stalls between the buildings. They just fit. And then we would set, instead of having 4 along the driveway, we would have 3, but possibly make them a little bit longer for a little easier egress to get into those parallel parking stalls.
And that'll increase our coverage by a little less than 200 square feet, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I think it goes up to 74.1.
We're anticipated 72.2 now, unless the numbers have changed.
No, correct. We are, yes. The way it is right now, it's 72.2. But if we had the parking stall and this would remain as impervious coverage, then we're increasing by 1 parking stall, which goes up to 74.1.
So, 2,
That seems like a very large increase for less than 200 square feet.
Well,
it's only 8,300 square foot property.
yeah,
The numbers go up quickly.
So it's 74 point, I'm sorry.
74.1.
So what I would call essentially the on-street parking would be 2 in the front?
Just 1. 1 parallel.
1 parallel. And then
3 along the,
And then where were you gaining this second one you said?
right here.
Right there. Okay.
But that would be the proposed parking layout. What we've done as far as stormwater management, we are proposing to have all the new roofed areas from the multi-use building in the front and also the pole barn to go into a dry well system. We have, in this instance, we did a soil log and we had a soil test done, and the ground there is suitable for the dry wells. They just have to be a little shorter. They're not the typical 6 feet deep dry well. They're only 3 feet deep. That's why there's 4 of them there. But they would take the buildings and just the buildings.
Is it feasible to direct all of the roof water into the dry well system? Can it handle
It would be. They're downhill of the.
So is it fair to say then, by doing that, as well as by reducing the parking lot area in terms of coverage, we are significantly reducing the amount of drainage that flows off of this property?
Yeah, we would, because right now everything just goes back towards the railroad, basically, and that our existing or the proposed parking lot would go that way. It's just the buildings that would go into the dry well system.
So we're significantly improving the drainage situation overall.
Yes.
So just to be clear, there's no drainage in terms of dry wells or anything on the property now?
Not that we're aware of, no.
So you're reducing the impervious coverage and adding additional drainage that doesn't otherwise exist?
Correct. We're reducing it by adding that system.
Well, also by diminishing the size of the park, the impervious.
Yes, we're reducing some of the impervious coverage. It kind of goes all the way around, up to basically up to where the new addition is.
So we have less coverage, and what coverage we do have, a lot of it's being captured, it's not now.
Correct.
This may only be semantics, but in on the bottom part of your illustration, it says a proposed garage. I know it's a pole barn. Does it matter that it says garage? Is that
I think if your board were to approve this application and I revise these drawings, I'll probably put pole barn / garage. Because in my notes, that's what I put it down as.
So we talked briefly about lighting. What are you envisioning with site lighting?
I had on my plan just proposed really to add something that like a carriage type light with 100-watt bulbs on the pole barn, and also on the garage door, above the garage doors on the multi-use building. And then there'd be another light that would be on the doorway that is on the side of the building. And then I think the architectural plan shows some lighting across the front for the sign. That's what I had proposed.
And all lighting?
Not to, I don't think it's a kind of site, or at this time, it's not the kind of use that we need to get light poles and things like that. I think Mr. Sachs has indicated he's, not a heavy use there.
And you agree with Mr. Hernandez, who said that all the lighting will be down-focused? It was gooseneck lighting, we were talking about the front of the building.
Yeah,
Anything on the
this,
pole barn,
what
the garage?
yeah, the lights on the garage, definitely not floodlights, something more attractive looking. I don't know that we want to put goosenecks there, but maybe like a carriage type light.
It's not going to spill on neighboring properties.
No, because really we've got the big firehouse right across the way.
Stipulation.
Bill, with an eye towards the bulk requirements, the bulk variances that we need for the pole barn, can you describe the surrounding area to give the board an idea of what impact, or more importantly, lack of impact there will be on those smaller setbacks to the pole barn?
This is our site. I'm going back to sheet 1. And you've got the subject property. To the east, you've got the firehouse. Across the street is a kind of a wooded area. I believe it's part of the bank property that's not developed. I mean, we really show that would be more the parking lot, and then I think there's some land beyond that, so that's just kind of wooded. To the west of our building, you've got the Cargs building, you got the auto repair, you got the auto body shop down on, well, you don't even see Commerce Street here. It's a parking area for Millington Auto Body. You got the firehouse, and then there's a, I guess, kind of an open air there, the picnic area for the firehouse with another garage there. And then beyond that, you've got NJ Transit. I think looking at this drawing, the first residence you have is just a little bit beyond 200 feet from our property on the Crescent. The area directly across from the firehouse is owned by Long Hill Township, and it's kind of a parking lot for the firehouse.
Is it fair to say that the pole barn would be buffered not only by whatever vegetation, and we'll ask you for landscaping in a minute, but in addition to whatever landscaping buffering we're offering, the firehouse itself is going to be quite a buffer for visibility to that pole barn, is that right?
That's correct. And this area behind Carg's building, Carg owns both of these, Lot 6 and Lot 10, and it's vacant right now. It's got a driveway through there that goes to the back of his building.
So any impact that the small setbacks that we're proposing would have is almost non-existent because it's facing vacant areas.
That's correct.
That they're, I think, fair to say, unlikely to be developed given the nature of where they're located and the type of street that they're on, assuming Commerce is even considered frontable street.
Yeah, it would take a little bit of effort to develop that back piece.
How about visibility of the pole barn from the street level, given the difference in elevation?
Well, number one, we're pretty much behind the other building. From the street, we're quite a bit lower, probably close to 8 feet or so. So you maybe see a little bit of the roof if you peek between the buildings.
Is it fair to say, given where the setback violations are, they would have no impact from the street perspective because they're on the opposite side of the building, of the street? Your setbacks are along the back.
Yes.
Pole barn, as opposed to Long Hill Road, which is all the way in front.
Right.
What kind of buffering are we proposing for the pole barn in particular?
We've got some pine trees that are there, and this might be more Mr. Sachs.
Mr. Sachs has already testified. I'm just asking what's on the plan, or is it not on the plan yet?
It's on the plan. We've got it's darker green. It's a row of shrubbery. They're I think they're pyramidal, thin
Columnar, yeah.
columnars. Okay.
So ultimately, the concept is to have a solid barrier of vegetation.
Yes. Yes.
Any critical areas, any environmental issues on this property that you're aware of?
No, we don't fit that criteria for steep slopes, so we're just
Stormwater, this is a minor development?
minor development.
Excuse me, do we have a problem with setbacks for the proposed pole barn as it's 2.5 feet from one corner and 2.7?
Right, those are our bulk variances for the setbacks.
That
are
was
all
in there?
related to the pole
Yeah.
barn.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, 2.5 from the rear and then 2.7 from the westerly side. Yeah,
I'm just making sure we're covered on this.
right, of course.
Is there any way to situate the pole barn so that it's not so close to the property line? 2.5 feet is pretty close. And I know we're saying it's not developed right now, but the way I look at that, you could combine those two properties and develop that and access it from Long Hill Road, and then whoever's buying that property is stuck with a pole barn 2.5 feet from their property line.
If they were willing to sell it, the applicant and the fire department have already asked for dibs on it, so we're trying to be the ones to do that. Bill, is the answer to the question, though, it's really a function of the operation of the parking lot?
Yes, it is.
Situation could happen with the current owner, too. They could choose to develop it and stick something in the corner. Doesn't have to be sold for that to happen.
Right, right. They're not here.
Right.
Right. Presumably they got notice.
No, what I mean is
Yeah, the fire department in Clarks, absolutely.
Yeah.
What I mean is the property owner could choose to develop that and sell it or rent it or something else, right? The pole barn, 2.5 feet from the property.
They have their opportunity
Yes.
to be here.
Correct.
Right.
So if we tried to move it further into the property, how would that affect the functionality of the parking lot?
Well, it would reduce the turning movements quite substantially, you know, and preclude us from adding that parking stall between the two buildings.
What's the reason for the parking stall between the two buildings?
We were going to eliminate parking stall number 2 and then add it in here, so that if there perchance there was someone coming and someone going at the same time, there'd be a little bit of room to move over to let that vehicle in. You want to let the vehicle in before you go out in most cases.
Are we not allowed to count the 2 parking spaces in the pole barn as part of the 8 that are required?
Well, we didn't want to get too greedy. We were just.
Well, that would, yeah.
I mean, look, if adding extra parking is making you, need this location of this pole barn to be so close to the property line, and you don't really need it because you have the required number of spots, right?
Well, the geometry of the pole barn at that size,
Mm-hmm.
if it's relocated away from both of those rear corners, it's going to conflict with driveway movements in and out of the attached garage.
Yeah.
So it would have to reduce in size, in footprint at least, right, to then be able to accommodate that area to the north where the parking space is without conflicting with other turning movements on the site.
Okay.
Was CARG approached to potentially purchase some of that property?
Yes. Cards was approached jointly by us and by the fire department. The thought being that we could actually split that property. They, at this point, are not interested.
There is a depressed curb between the detached garage and the dry wells. Is there a corresponding gate for access through the fence to the rear, or is that just simply for drainage purposes?
That was simply for drainage.
Okay.
Before we get into professional reports, I don't have any further questions for Mr. Hollows. In the interest of time, would you prefer Mr. Hollows to go through it, or would professionals like to simply focus on whatever might be left?
I'll defer to Mr. Hollows to summarize and stipulate.
Yeah, I think I've
Satisfy me.
I think I've hit a lot of them as I spoke here.
Just for the record, we have Mr. Vucci's May 28th, 2024 memorandum, and Ms. Laney's May 31st, 2024. Just start with whichever one you want to start with.
I have Joe's letter in front of me, so.
I mean, I think you could, why don't we just skip down to, start us off on page 3, down into the off-street parking and the parking area design standards. There's a few design exceptions, just to make sure we cover the understanding of the spaces being customary in size, but not meeting our ordinance, and the two-way traffic width would normally be 24 feet or 15 feet for one way. And that's part of what you're mitigating with the county at the driveway.
Right.
By removing that parking space.
Well, the county, they've seen this drawing, and they really came back with, a comment was, move this parallel parking stall out a little bit, and then put a stop bar and a stop sign there.
But to accommodate the stop bar and have the ability for somebody else to turn in while you're queued at the stop bar, that's the need to reduce that parking space.
Yeah, and I think it was, as we were going through the plans prior to this meeting, the owner said, I think I'd like to have a spot there.
Okay.
So that's where we indicated we'd put the 2 here, remove that one, but you're correct. Our driveway up at the top is well.
It's 18 wide curb to curb on your
Yeah.
dimensions of your
It'd be
plan.
12 feet wide when you get back to the second parking stall.
Correct. So by removing that stall, you have the ability to have two-way access, still with a design exemption. But then that could also address some of the accessibility of having somewhere for the rare patrons that park there to go to the flower shop to be safely out of the way of a car turning in on the blind side of the building.
That'd be correct, yes.
Okay. That gets us right into technical, so I'll leave it to you to pick the poison on stipulations.
Well.
Is there anything that we can't stipulate?
Wait, I'm sorry, before we go any further, I just want to confirm, so you're going to be seeking those design waivers for all of those various drive aisle and parking and site
That's correct.
Okay, just confirming, thank you. Please continue.
And they'll be slightly relaxed from what I have in my letter.
Okay.
Based on the testimony of the anticipated plan revisions that they're already going to put in.
All right, I think the experts understand what the technical.
Can you explain that to me? I'm sorry. I don't
Yeah,
understand what you're talking
part of page 3 of my letter, getting from off-street parking 2.5 through 2.6 in parking area design standards, those are design exceptions from our standards for dimensioning of spaces.
There'd be smaller spots than normal.
Right, now they're customary common spots, 9 by 18, but not meeting our code, as well as the width of the driveway for two-way access. When there was a parking stall there, as shown on the plan, it was only some 12 feet wide, right? 10 or 12 feet wide, essentially less than one-way access for two-way access per our code. By removing that parking space, it's still less than the required width of a two-way driveway, but it does accommodate more room for appropriate turning movements in and out of the driveway. So they're still requesting all of those exceptions, but they're in revision will be less of a deviation
Than what's indicated
in my memo.
I see.
Are you comfortable with the size of that parking spot? If you were
I
the
am.
person that went there to park your car?
Yeah, certainly. 9 by 18 is an industry standard.
Okay.
So our code tends to be a little bit larger. You'd see in many shopping centers and other areas, commercial areas, they'll often ask for that design exception when they come to our planning or zoning board.
mind if we just confirm which ones are needed here? I'm just gonna list, because I think I have them all written down. Off-street perpendicular parking space size,
Correct.
off-street parallel parking space size,
Yes.
no ADA parking stalls.
Yes, when
Right.
one would be required, unless the one in the front can be stipulated to be ADA accessible.
Can we make it accessible but not?
It could be designated but not accessible. It still need a design exception. You'd need the exception from ADA
We
requirements.
just want to, yeah, we want to just make sure that it's not, that somebody's not
It's not restricted.
prohibited from parking there if they're not ADA,
Right.
which obviously is common.
Yeah, if it's if it's ADA accessible and you're saying not designated as the ADA spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we consider that a design waiver from our standards.
Okay, so
parking
that would be provision of a, I'm sorry,
Well, let's call it 0 ADA spaces where one is required.
okay, fair enough. All right, so we do,
And then we'll do our best to make it accommodating to somebody in grade
Right.
and access.
right. The next would be driveway width. That's
Yes.
entrance driveway width. Drive aisle width for the parallel parking stalls. Location of off-street parking stalls, having one in the front of the building.
Yes.
That's a design waiver. Sidewalk width. They're proposing 3 feet wide, 4 feet is required. minimum.
Yes.
And then finally, sidewalk access to a commercial building entrance. They're not proposing that, and that would be otherwise be required.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Those are all.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. So that's the design waiver.
As far as your technical review comments, I just went through there and had a question with Fred, and I don't see where there's anything that's a question that we can't adhere to.
And I think most of what I've asked for testimony, I was checking off as we went, was already covered with other testimony. So I'm generally satisfied.
It would eliminate a few variances. We can circle back to that at the end of the hearing.
Okay. And Liz's report, though?
I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Okay. There you go.
I don't see anything that we,
Yeah, who's going to provide planning testimony?
So nobody's providing planning testimony. There would be planning argument presented.
Okay. Okay. Is it Mr. Hollows?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm not going to kill the poor guy. After
Okay.
getting something all night.
Okay. All right. So I think I think everything was addressed in testimony that's not planning arguments.
While we're in Liz's memo, I'm gonna just want to confirm the variances here. I know we're going to do it at the end, but I think now's a good time just because we're on her portion of this. Already covered the D5, the D6. We know those are here. Lot coverage, 74.1%. 60 is the maximum permitted. Stop me if I'm getting anything inaccurate here. Floor area of apartments, height of accessory structure for the pole barn, westerly side yard setback of the pole barn, rear yard setback of the pole barn. This is where we get into more interesting ones. Use of painted steel and metal siding on the pole barn. I think, would that be a variance, Liz, or is that like a design waiver? Is that even variance? Okay.
Yeah.
She's nodding her head variance. I don't think you need this. I think the applicant stipulated that everything was going to be stored inside, but I think you might have needed a variance for outdoor storage or display of goods, products, or services. I don't think you're going to comply with that portion of the ordinance. You're not going to be doing any of that. Okay. Number of stories for the proposed building. 2 is the max permitted. 3.5 are proposed. Dumpster enclosure. Side and rear yard setbacks capacity. You're going to comply with the ordinance's requirements for the dumpster enclosures. 154.3 of the ordinance.
yes, we'll do that.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Complying, so we'll knock that one out. Dumpster enclosure and parking area buffers, that's 156.1 of the ordinance. I think you guys will comply with that one as well?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Comply. Sidewalk width, we touched on already. Building materials, I think we touched on awning
did.
materials.
Yeah,
We
it
hit
was-
those, they don't
yeah.
need, they don't need relief from those sections?
They do not.
They do not, okay, cool, just eliminating. Lighting design requirements, you guys will provide a lighting plan in accordance with the ordinance 153.2.
Given the testimony, do we really need one?
That's kind of where I was going. That's why.
We'd ask for a waiver on that if we could.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waiver. And then air conditioning unit screening. You guys gonna provide that? I think we might have touched on it before, I can't really recall.
We can put some screening around it.
All right, we'll
You are-
comply. Okay, great. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you, guys.
Further questions?
Any further questions from the board for Mr. Hollows?
I do have a question about the sidewalk. It was mentioned earlier, the sidewalk will go from the firehouse to the Clark property, is that the way I understand it? Is it regular, normal concrete sidewalk?
No, it's not all concrete. A lot of it's paved.
Paved, okay.
It's asphalt, a combination of asphalt and concrete, depending on what property you're at.
Oh, I'm sorry, but the improvements that you propose,
We weren't proposing any improvements because it's already there.
oh, it's already there, okay, so no change to that?
No.
Okay.
Are we going to accommodate the county's request by striping, basically? Is that how we'll do it?
Yeah, I think we'll have to do that.
The whole thing is asphalt now, so it's really just a matter of designating the parking space, which I would assume by striping. we'll also do.
Yes.
That will be different than the sidewalk. Right now, it's just one continuous piece. of
Correct.
flat.
But we're not going to put curb in or anything like that. We're just going to stripe it.
You're gonna stripe it so people know where to park and where.
Correct.
Okay. And there's no other streetscape items proposed there?
No.
Okay.
And there's essentially no contiguous sidewalk along the frontage of the street. It's essentially
I'm
just,
That's why I was
yeah.
asking for clarification.
Right.
I
Was
wasn't
one of
sure
the
if you were
design waivers.
proposing a new concrete standard sidewalk with curbs and everything else.
Any further questions from the board? No one? Okay. Open it to the public. Anybody in the public have questions for Mr. Hollows?
I'm gonna jump in with throws. It's way too late for me. Too late in the evening for me to start harping. They really should be doing this in public.
5, 4.
Mr. Hollows, I'm sorry, could you guys if she's asking you questions, we gotta make sure it's on the record, you know, it's an open public hearing here.
Any further questions?
Could we just put her question on the record?
Yeah, let's make sure we get that, please.
Are you gonna post this online so we can see
It's
where
online,
this
yeah.
parking is gonna be?
This has been online,
is
this is
online.
all submitted.
No, I just looked at the site plans.
This rendering's not up.
Well, it's, other than being colored, that's
I didn't even see it.
It's part of, each of the things on the website has multiple pages. You need to, once you bring it up, you need to keep it down.
I can't put it on the website like that now.
All right, I'll come and I'll get a copy from you.
Just, my understanding of it, because I was able to hear the question, you're basically asking where the parking spaces are. You were asking Mr. Hollis where the parking spaces are located,
Yeah,
and he
my-
showed them to you?
As I stated before, my underlying concern is for the trucks, the residents parking, residents, visitors parking, customer parking, the minivan parking in a very small space. We all admit this is a small space. So I would just like to be able to look at it a little more carefully. And just comment-wise, I think aesthetically, if you could have one contiguous sidewalk, it would really look a lot better than the concrete in front of the firehouse, than the asphalt in front of this building, and then further down on Long Hill, again, it's concrete. You just made it one
one sidewalk, all concrete, rather than concrete, asphalt, concrete, aesthetically, it would look a lot nicer if you're gonna do all this. Thank you.
Thank you.
She was duly sworn at the previous meeting, or at the previous part of the hearing.
She was.
So, just,
Would
So-
you be objectionable to doing what the rest of the, I'll call it downtown Millington Business District standards look like, which was Belgian block curb and a concrete sidewalk in front of your building?
Kind of need to have parking in front.
It would be parking. You could have it, but you could just designate that differential between the parking area instead of.
The curb would prevent the car from being able to get up onto the
This,
property.
this is a county road, and we'd have to get county approval to do something like that.
Okay, so my understanding, I thought we just talked about the parking area and the sidewalk would be separated by paint.
Yes.
So what would be the difference if that were a Belgian block curb instead of paint?
Or are you talking about a flush Belgian block curb?
Well, if you look at downtown Millington, right, that's what we'll call it, I guess, in some areas it is flush.
On the other side of Long Hill Road primarily.
So
We really don't
bank-
have curb on our
The
side.
bank side has it,
Right, back
and then what used to be the Chinese restaurant, which is now, I think, in transition to a Turkish restaurant, that has Belgian block. Their neighbor, Long Hill Auto, has Belgian block, but it's sort of recessed. And that,
They go directly into their building.
yeah, but it's still Belgium across there with a sidewalk, with a concrete sidewalk. So all of the downtown Millington, with the exception of the card properties, have Belgian block curb and a sidewalk.
So for this property, though, you're suggesting a flush, just for aesthetics, to have a flush
Well,
Belgian
the
block?
neighbor is, I think, has a good point. The rest of the neighborhood has sidewalks and curb.
Yeah, I think that, so the concern is that the subject property and the neighboring two properties, neighboring one property, are essentially off-street parking, perpendicular or parallel.
Right.
Right, an extension of the roadway in the right-of-way.
Right.
And then the next property picks up sidewalk flush with flush curb at grade with asphalt behind it. I don't want to speak for the county because it's their right away, it's their jurisdiction, but I don't believe there's enough dimensional width between the front of the building and where we would set that curb to have 4 feet of concrete that I think what the county's asked us to do is park closer to the edge of pavement, quote unquote, the edge of the travel way.
Right.
And by doing that, that car would be in that first 4 feet where the sidewalk would go.
That
So
would
this,
be
like,
correct.
what we're discussing would, I guess, be the alternative to what the county's proposed. So we'd be in conflict with the county's request.
The county's asking for there to be a pedestrian walkway, but it would be right up against
They,
the front of our building.
they want accessibility in and out of the building
Not where the sidewalk would logically go.
and would rather it appear as parallel parking on street, essentially.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Seeing, closing to the public?
I think we're closing both questions and comments, because I believe that's how everybody in the
Questions
public.
and comments, say goodbye. Done.
There's no one else in the public? No? Okay. Going once, twice, you're out. All right. Okay.
I'll close very briefly, but thank you again for staying with us this evening so we can get this concluded. We do appreciate it greatly. Obviously, we have several variances involved. Most of them are bulks. The two use variances that we have are a D5 and a D6. The D5 is for density. It's because our lot is so small that we end up with a 5.24 density when we're only allowed to have a 5. In reality, it's kind of a flaw in the way ordinances are drafted because in order to comply, you'd have to have less than one unit, which obviously doesn't even make sense logically. So it's a very technical variance. Even setting that aside, though, the standard is the same for both the D6 and the D5, which is whether the site can accommodate the harm that the limitation is designed to prevent. Again, even to discuss that with regard to the D5 is
have a discussion that doesn't make sense, as I just said, with regard to the D6, as I mentioned at the beginning, under the Grasso versus Borough Spring Lake Heights case. They want you to take, the court says, look at your streetscape, look at your skyline, and see if what's being proposed from a height perspective is having a detrimental impact upon that. As I argued before, what you're seeing is what we're proposing now. It's more consistent with your streetscape than what's there now. What's there now doesn't look right. This does. And Mr. Fernandez mentioned that in terms of flow and so forth, and correctly, I believe. So I think we've satisfied the positive criterion for the D6. With regard to the C variances, all of them, which includes the stories, basically it's a C2 analysis, flexible C, benefit outweighs the detriments. There's three purposes of the MOUL that are involved here. One is A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. In this particular, we're not dealing with physical safety issues by creating a better streetscape, but you are improving the overall atmosphere of the town and the public welfare in that sense. Second is purpose G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses in open space, both public and private, according to their respective environmental requirements, in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. And finally, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement, which is purpose I. All three of these are satisfied as the proposed development of this property by providing retail, commercial, and residential space in a single aesthetically attractive building with a formal paved and landscape parking lot, effectively, although maybe not literally, replacing the unattractive existing building and gravel parking area, and as well as by substantially reducing the impervious coverage and the draining situation on the property. So what we are doing here is taking a lot that's got problems, it's got challenges, and generally speaking, we've improved them all around, certainly with regard to your drainage, certainly with regard to your aesthetics, and certainly with regard to your overall streetscape. The only detriment really that you're looking at potentially is with regard to your bulk variances for the pole barn itself that we've talked about, your setbacks. And again, you're dealing with a situation where there's nothing but vacant lots surrounding that barn. We are going to have it fully buffered with vegetation. Most of it's already buffered by the firehouse itself, and also by the slope. Because from the street, you're looking basically over top of it. It's well down below, and honestly, there's a pole barn right behind us that's basically the same thing. It's actually larger. So, as far as detriment to the neighborhood and fitting in, that barn's been there for however long, and to our knowledge, has not caused any kind of a detriment. With regard to the size of the apartment, we could be compliant with 2 apartments. Instead, we're looking to just have one, and yes, it's more than 1,000 square feet, but in this particular property, given the size of it and given the design that we're proposing, it makes a lot more sense to have one unit rather than trying to rent out 2 different apartments. Not to mention 2 different apartments would increase your parking requirements. So for all of those reasons, we think we've satisfied the positive and negative criterion for both the D and C variances. Thank you again for staying up with us tonight, and we would appreciate a positive vote.
Right, let us know we have 6. You're okay with proceeding to a vote with 6?
Do we take a straw vote that if there's anybody thinking of voting no? Could phrase it that way to make it clear. Actually, the way you handle it, your members typically give an
They'll tell you,
ahead of the
yeah,
vote anyway,
in the
so we
deliberations.
follow the normal
Yeah.
procedure.
You let me know if you want to maybe punt. Okay. Mr. Chairman, do you want me to try to summarize again, or?
It's getting late. Sure, do it really fast.
All right, I'm going for record speed. Okay, applicant
Extend
seeking.
the meeting by 5 minutes?
Yes, can I get a motion to extend the meeting 5 minutes?
I can't see the clock. Good call.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
It's all in favor.
All in
that's aye.
favor? Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
they're seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval, 1D5 density variance, 5.24 units per acre proposed, or only 5 units per acre would be permitted. Just to be clear, they're only proposing 1 apartment unit. D6 height variance, they're proposing a structure at the height of 34.3 feet tall, where only 35 feet would be permitted. Lot coverage, proposing 74.1%, where 60% is the permitted maximum. Floor area of an apartment in the M zone, they're proposing a floor area of 1,538 square feet, as per the testimony of Mr. Fernandez before, where the maximum permitted is 1,000 square feet. Height of the pole barn, which is an accessory structure, they're proposing at a height of 22.4 feet, where 20 feet is the maximum permitted. Westerly side yard setback for the pole barn, they're proposing 2.7 feet, where 10 feet is the minimum required. Rear yard setback of the pole barn, proposing 2.5 feet, where 10 feet is the minimum required. They're using painted steel and metal siding and roofing finish on the proposed pole barn, even though those materials are not permitted by the ordinance ordinarily. Also seeking another variance sort of related to height, but this is just for the number of stories for the proposed principal building. They're proposing 3.5 stories, where 2 stories is the maximum permitted. And they're complying with the dumpster requirements, building materials, all these other things that I don't need to go into that they indicated they'd be complying with. Several design waivers that I touched on before: off-street perpendicular parking space size, off-street parallel parking space size, provision of no ADA accessible parking stalls where only where one would be required. Driveway width is not compliant. Drive aisle width for the parking stalls is not compliant. Location of off-street parking stalls is not compliant. Insufficient sidewalk width of 3 feet, where 4 feet is the minimum required. And no sidewalk access to the commercial building entrance is also proposed.
We have a height variance for the pole barn. Did you mention that?
I did mention that,
Okay.
yeah. 22.4 feet, where 20 is the max.
Sorry, I just missed it.
Yeah, no worries. And then as far as conditions go, everything in our board planner and engineers memorandum respectively dated May 31st, 2024 and May 6th, 2024. The litany of other conditions, I gotta go back through my notes to dig these up. Applicant would park employee vehicles in the pole barn when work trucks are not there. Kind of covers that one for the parking issue. I know there's a few other ones in here. Most of these, I think, were in the professional memos anyway. They're going to comply with the sign ordinance. Yep. Oh, wait. I'm on. I took my notes for the last application in the same pad. Hold on. Okay. They're going to revise the plans to identify the detached pole barn as a pole barn / garage. All lighting, exterior lighting is going to be directed downward or otherwise shielded, not to cast spillage on the neighboring properties. And I believe that's it. They were also, we had a previous exchange before, that they were going to be complying with multiple requirements of the ordinance that were flagged in Liz's memo. So if I didn't specifically state it before, they're not seeking variances for those, and they're going to comply with them. So I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
And probably just to mention that the one parking space is going to be removed and replaced in a different location.
Okay, that's going to be a stipulation. I'll take it as such.
Okay. Deliberations. Jerry, would you like to start?
Sure, I'll start. I don't love the application. I understand that you're trying to improve the property, and I totally respect that. However, I think the density is a little bit much for the area. When I say density, I mean the total use, the reduced size parking spot, insufficient area in front of the building for sidewalk and a parking space. The pole barn itself is large and excessive for that area. I understand what your attorney said, the comments about we're supposed to look at the whole streetscape and the size of the buildings around us, around that area to determine the height, but it's still, exceeds the stories. I understand that because of the slope in the back and the walkout basement, et cetera, but still, even from the front of the building, it's still 37 feet 8 inches, which exceeds the height ordinance itself. I think a better, maybe a little bit of a better design to try to at least keep that within our standards. I have peeves about height ordinances because we do point to other buildings, and if we did what your attorney said, every building would be higher than the next one because they all fit with the streetscape and the design of the other buildings. So I don't love it. However, I think it does improve the area. What's there now is I agree with that. What's there now does not fit with that area at all. It's a little box, and it's an unimproved lot. So begrudgingly, I think I'm going to say yes to that, and that's the way I'm going to leave it. But yeah, I don't love it. I don't love the size of the pole barn on somebody else's property, but as my colleague said, they're not here to object. I get that, but they just maybe not paying attention. We don't know what's gonna go on in that area in the future. Yes, the firehouse has a pole barn, but that's community serving. That is, you know, there's life safety equipment in there, right? There's stuff going on there that we actually need. So I appreciate what you're trying to do. You're trying to mix a place to store your construction or your landscape equipment with your residents. I understand that. We're probably losing a lot of the industrial areas that we have in the town where you're permitted to store that stuff. So that's another consideration that I have. Tifa may be going away. I understand what's happening. So, or Barrett itself, wherever you store right now, Barrett may be going away. But so again, begrudgingly, yes. Sorry to belabor this so much.
Thank you. Ms. Collins.
I do appreciate the fact that this is gonna, you know, you'd made a point of mentioning that this simultaneously is going to be a living space, not just for yourself, but for your family. So I think there's something to be said for the fact that keeping this place neat and orderly, the fact that it's gonna be a commercial business that you're operating and also living in, there's that incentive too to keep things neat and tidy and orderly, and so I appreciate that. When I look at the design of the building, I mean, there isn't anything that aesthetically to my senses is offensive. I mean, I look at it, I think it's a great improvement to what's there overall. I feel like I've already spoken too much given the time, but in my eyes, I think that the benefits outweigh the detriments, and I would approve this application.
So it's kind of a very small, unusual size lot. I think you're trying to combine your business with your home life, which is commendable. I think what there is now is needs a great deal of improvement, which is what you're doing, and I think overall, I think it's a good plan, and I would approve.
I need a motion to extend the meeting for another 5-7 minutes.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Randy, would you go next?
Sure. Mr. Zelli, I think you made the comment during the first half of your presentation that this fills a gap, and that picture is your case. I agree. Your reference to the Grasso case, I think, is very compelling. So I vote yes as well. So thank you for the presentation. And also, I want to thank the public for their commentary and concerns as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I don't usually go last, so I don't really have much else to add. But for all of the reasons that my colleagues have laid out, I'm also in favor of the application. I will just add also that the conditions that have been both initially agreed to coming in with the screening and the drainage and the like, right, in terms of improving what's already there beyond just the aesthetics, also weighs in favor of approving the application in terms of the benefits outweighing the negatives. So I'm in favor of the application.
And I too will be in favor of this application. Looking at what you've proposed compared to what's on the property now, great improvement. You've done a lot of work. You had to work with the county and with our great board secretary, zoning coordinator. And I will shut up at that point and say thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
So do you want us to vote?
Okay. Question of the hour, Mr. Zelli, what's your answer?
There's your straw poll.
You want to roll the dice? Feeling lucky?
I'm gonna make a motion then.
We're all done with you, right?
Yeah.
Make a motion for a 5-minute break.
Can I have someone to move to approve this application?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Flatley?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Grosskopf?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very much, and I can still say have a nice night. So.
And then we just need one more motion.
To adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out.
Have a wonderful evening.